Working in the margins. Dealing with our challenges, assessing needs, and finding solutions. Short-term, mid-range, and long-term. Solutions can find us working in the margins. Today's world is a tough baseline. It's more difficult than ever to just exist or get by. And it's not getting any easier. Moving forward in today's world has become both an art and a science. Food, clothing, temporary shelter, long-term housing, short-term jobs, temporary employment, or long-range careers. It all takes some help and finesse. Not everyone can do it. It's an art and a science. And let's face it, not everyone is a scientist. Some people need more help than others. The basics like reliable transportation, internet, laundry, a regular shower, even water, those basics we all take for granted. Electricity, these are the challenges of those caught in the net. Are homeless, unhoused, housing challenged, living in the margins. People of all ages, young, middle-aged, senior citizens, entire families, male, female, all reasons and all walks of life. Anyone can find themselves living in the margins. Homelessness and the challenges that go with it are not going away, and we can't ignore them. It's just too expensive. We've got to do better. Take the next step forward. Tune in now and listen to Working in the Margins.
Welcome, San Bernardino, Inland Empire. This is Shazette with Working in the Margins with Family Assistance Program. This is our weekly radio show. And I'm coming to you from the wonderful studios at Teamsters 1932 in downtown San Bernardino on 4th and Sierra. I have guests coming. I think they're here, Eric. If you could help me. They're here, but I know how to vibe until we can get them here in the seats. This is our love show. I'm bringing on some friends that we're gonna talk about why we need to be. They said the front desk. Thank you, Eric. We're going to talk about self-determination, what it means to be able to self-define, some of the things that are happening in our LGBTQ trans communities, to some of our neighbors that identify with LGBTQ or trans. There's been some not good things happening on the federal level to try to take away protections of this population, and I want you to hear from people that are being affected, and I want to talk to them about what they're doing to advocate and get through this time, not just for others but for themselves. I'm excited. I'm in a mood. I feel like I love Michelle Obama, and when she said that famous phrase about when they go low, we go high. We can't go low. We can't go as low as what is happening on a lot of on the federal front. We're not built that way. I don't know anybody personally in my life, in my work life, in my personal life, that aspires to hurt people intentionally or erase people intentionally. And that it breaks my heart more than anything when I open the news and they say, this population no longer exists because we said you can't have that box anymore. There's only two genders now that the government will recognize, male and female. And everybody knows I come from the union. That's where I got my advocacy legs, I feel. And I am a firm believer in, if they come for you, they're coming for us. They're coming for me. If they can come for you and take away your rights, what's to stop them from coming to my community to try to take back the rights that we've gained. Nothing stops them, obviously. They're not listening to anybody. There's a trillion lawsuits right now going on where, this is illegal, executive orders this, executive orders that. What I need for us community to remember and not get caught up in the doom scrolling politics of it all is that these are human beings. They're not just numbers, they're not just statistics, they're not just a population or a group. They are individual human beings that have had to, we don't know what they've had to endure. We don't know what they've had to endure to be able to self-determine. But think about your life. Think about what self-determination means to you in your life. I know what it means to me to be able to name who I am and decide where I'm going and what path I'm going to take and who I'm going to help and how I'm going to help. If somebody had control over that for me, it would not be worth doing. It would not be worth doing. Self-determination is freedom to a lot of people because they've lived lives of not being able to express themselves and be who they really were because of oppression, trauma, abuse, bad facts most of the time, bad facts. And then just intolerance. People are intolerant. I've learned over the last couple of weeks how people have become intolerant and how people become intolerant. I know that I'm over wondering every day what marginalized population is going to be affected. It's every day. And I know that if I'm tired and I feel exhausted, like a lot of people, I'm looking for ways to not feel this way. And I think what I've decided to do is go high. When they go low, I'm going to go high. I'm going to try to help everybody that I possibly can who's in this marginalized community population. Gay, straight, trans, black, Mexican, immigrant, undocumented, unhoused. We have enough work to do here locally, people. We have enough here. We have enough love to go around. We can do it right here in our communities. We have enough people here that want to do this work and have devoted their lives to doing this work. Protecting these populations, our neighbors, that identify other than male or female. So we're going to take a break. And when I come back, my wonderful guests are here, and they're going to come sit with me, and we're going to talk to you a little bit more. I'll be right back, San Bernardino.
KCAA.
You've eaten lots of great food and not so great food at restaurants. Cowboy Burgers in Fontana and now in Arlington and Riverside will fast become one of your favorites with their delicious, mouth-watering burgers and breakfast burritos. Cowboy Burgers and Barbecue also serves fantastic smoked barbecue baby back ribs, tri-tip, chicken, pulled pork sandwiches, as well as lunch and dinner plates. Everything is made from scratch, including their delicious side dishes like coleslaw, potato salad, barbecue beans, and much, much more. Check out their rich, decadent chocolate brownies.
Hi, I'm food critic Alan Borgen, and you can dine in, take food out, or have them cater your next special event. I highly recommend Cowboy Burgers and Barbecue at their new location at 5573 Arlington Avenue in Riverside. Just look them up on the internet. That's Cowboy Burgers and Barbecue. Happy eating!
And perfect for the holidays, Cowboy Burgers and Barbecue is also available for catering. That's Cowboy Burgers and Barbecue in Fontana and now in Riverside on Arlington. This important time-sensitive message is brought to you by this station's generous sponsor, George Litchfield Associates, who has important Medicare information for all current and future Medicare recipients about some big changes happening. Medicare Clarified. Medicare is a nonprofit consumer service organization.
It's more important than ever to review your Medicare plan for 2025 from October 15th through December 7th. To find out if you're in the right plan for you, people are calling 951-769-0005. 951-769-0005. A popular and local Medicare plan is improving. Others are raising copays and adding deductibles. Biggest changes in the Medicare drug program in 15 years.
We thank George Litchfield and Litchfield Insurance for their generous support of this radio station.
The Row House reminds listeners each day 22 veterans take their own lives. Together, we can win this war against veteran suicide. Let us all join the Row House to let our veterans know there is hope, there is help, and they can heal. That's courtesy of The Row House in San Bernardino, offering daily deals on everything from top quality flour to edibles and so much more. Their goal is to help you win that battle within. Stop by or call 909-763-3700. The Row House in San Bernardino.
KCAA.
San Bernardino, this is Shazette, working in the margins. We are on KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM. I got to remember all of this. I'm going to try to memorize it all.
And they can also watch live on kcaaradio.com.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, so this generates like a podcast, and then after the show, it'll be downloaded and it'll be on YouTube. Everybody, I send it out. Follow, I have a hashtag, hashtag working in the margins with the Z. Anything that I talk about on here, you can connect through that hashtag. I post everything on that hashtag, and resources and things and flyers and things like that. So I'm so excited. So again, this is the Love Show. This is the Love Edition. We're showing love to our community by making sure that everybody feels inclusive, that we remain inclusive. We're gonna take back whatever that DEI negative crap is. I don't know what that means. So or why is so. It's just like a catchphrase, you know. So we're gonna debunk all, you know, some myths about some populations that sadly have been marginalized. But man, there's been some advances, and I don't want to just, you know, be fatalistic. That's not, because I have two wonderful people here with me who have shown their resilience, and they keep coming and wanting to help people, y'all. After everything, they keep coming every day and they want to help people. So I have Miss Karina.
Hello, Shazette. It's so nice to be here.
And I have Miss Jamie Musser, our poetess. Jamie is from Welcome Home. That's our family assistance LGBTQIA transitional shelter program is here local. And she's part of that team. And she's a community advocate. She's, like I said, she's our poetess. She uses spoken word to translate to the community, you know, stories of some of our marginalized populations. And then Miss Karina she's like, you do everything, but I know you more from like outreach.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm more known for doing outreach, do a little bit of case management here and there, interacting with clients, but it's been really good. So I enjoy my time with Family Assistance Program.
Yes, and I've enjoyed meeting and working with you both. We used to work closer when I was over on that youth services side, but you know, we still family because it's family assistance. We serve a lot of the same people. And I refer folks back and forth to you regularly. So I want to talk to you because I feel like you have the inside track on some of the things that are going on right now. And I want to talk to you about how they are affecting your population, our population. What is our community? So I want to share, i.e. San Bernardino, a few things that have happened since the beginning of this recent administration, okay? And that has affected the LGBTQIA trans population. No longer only recognizing people as men or women. That was an executive order. Requests denied for passport gender markers. So you used to be able to do, I think it was an X or something, male, female, and then
non-binary.
Non-binary. So that's not allowed anymore. They're opening the door to another ban on transgender service members that serve our country. Transgender men moved into men's prisons. Defunding gender-affirming medical care for transgender youth. And barring schools from helping students social transitioning. So these are not things you do when you love people, or you don't, first do no harm. How is this affecting our folks in your programs, Jamie and Karina, either one? What are you seeing?
So at the drop-in center specifically, we have a lot of youth that are coming in that do identify with being part of the LGBTQ plus community. A lot of our trans members are scared. They are very fearful. They are asking us questions of, okay, what can we do next? How do we stay safe? How do we make sure that we are going to be okay walking out on the streets? Because not only are they needing to use public transportation, they're needing to find jobs, and we're worried about discrimination. So they are really fearful, and we're just trying to ease that fear as much as possible by, providing the housing services that we provide, as Jamie does. Not only doing that, but also providing a safe space for them to land. Like if they don't feel comfortable being out and about in the community all the time, they can come to the drop-in center, grab a snack, decompress with us,
And the
have
community
conversations.
is there for them too.
Yeah, and the community is there for them. And we try to host community events at the drop-in center to where Jamie actually hosts a LGBTQ specific movie night.
Yes.
So
We're going to invite people to that. I want you to talk about that.
yeah, so that's been a great addition to the drop-in center specifically, where we've been able to find community within those around us with allies and members of the LGBTQ plus population.
Wonderful.
So we're just working on, I think, focusing on that aspect of creating that community within our immediate circles. And knowing that we have these safe
Building
spaces.
the family we want.
Yeah,
as opposed to the folks
exactly.
that you were born to. Sometimes you want to, build folks that
Exactly.
are probably in the same struggle, in different ways. But
Yeah.
I think what I'm afraid of is that people are going to feel like that community now is disenfranchised, so we can treat them any way we want to. That's my concern. Because I even feel that way as a black person, a black woman especially, because I get comments, we sent a message, we didn't want your kind or a black woman or this, and I feel like some folks think they have license to talk to me and share that with me, and I'm like, don't sign a check that you asking cash, because I'm not Kamala, so that's what I worry about though. I go on the defensive. I'm like, I recognize tone. What can we do to advocate and empower our folks that are on the front lines in this fight? Because it's always going to be a fight. But now it's just like we got to fight harder right now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know? And then we didn't have to fight so hard the last 4 years. But we still had to fight. It's always going to be something we're trying to progress to. But how are we talking to our folks when they come to you in shelter, the most vulnerable times of their lives, they're
Right.
coming to you to shelter for help, and how are you helping them? Where are you starting with them to get them, feeling secure a little bit,
Well, I was actually speaking with a couple clients yesterday, and I was telling them how important it is that we stay informed of what's going on, and that we are able to look at what's happening without carrying it all day throughout the day. That there should be a space to talk about these things, to prepare, to know exactly what's going to happen and what we can do. So what I would love is to put together a group where maybe on a weekly basis everyone gets together, and I even told my clients, like, invite your friends, invite your trans queer friends.
Yes.
There's so many queer people, we cannot be erased. There's so many of us.
I know.
So I like to remind my clients that there are so many people that do care about them, and people may feel very justified in their treatment of others, but we do have each other at the end of the day.
Yes.
They are not alone. And I
Yes.
think that is the most important thing to tell our clients, is that we are in this fight with them. And we're here to talk about that in a safe space. And I would really love to just know anything we can do, any sort of protests or anything we can
Action.
do to
Yes,
advocate, because
yes.
not only are we advocates, but we want to teach our clients how to advocate for themselves. Because
yeah.
that's going to be really
Yeah.
important.
And I think a big part of that is amplifying young queer voices and
Mm-hmm.
making sure that they are being heard by representatives in their local government. We also, as an organization, really want to be open to hearing what their specific concerns are and how we can do better. And I think that's why it's important that we do certain things like the listening session that's coming up
Yes.
on February 21st. We were having a listening session with young people from 14 to 24 years of age. I think that that's going to be a really great session for us to hear all of the issues that are coming up,
Yes.
going on within younger generations, and
Right.
figure out how we can provide support. So
You can learn from us old heads a little bit, but I know that I keep myself surrounded with young people because I learn a lot from from young people, and they let me hang out, and and I'm hip on the good music and stuff like that, and the newest dances and stuff. But what is more important, I think I have an edge because I have a child that's 31. So he's really, he keeps me, cool, I guess. I don't know what you call it. But I keep my ear to the ground, and I hear a lot of what the needs are. Where, how do we... It's being informed about the population. You all are going to take over this world. I'm not trying. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go to retirement soon. I got about 5 more years, Daryl. That's all. But you guys are inheriting something that I've worked my career off to advocate for. Every population, every marginalized person. You are a demonstration of what hard work does to bring up other advocates, to bring up other people to voice, and I'm here, I support you, but I need y'all to take over. I need y'all to take over. I need you to advocate, march. Come talk to the young Teamster people. The Teamsters have Robert Gonzalez. This kid is remarkable. He's the communications coordinator for the Teamsters. He's 20-something years old. He's like a young guy in an old body. But he believes in organizing and bringing people to amplify their voices, young people. And I'm like, y'all all need to get together, everybody. Private, public, get together, because I really don't think they're seeing enough demonstrations.
Yeah.
I don't think they're seeing enough demonstrations. I think people have retreated in fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely something that we're seeing a lot because we're not sure if we're going to be physically safe
Right.
out in the world.
Right.
I think that it creates a lot of fear, like you're saying, and it makes it hard to want to go out and demonstrate that when you are fearing for your life. But that's even more reason why it's important that we're getting out there and
Yeah.
boots on the ground.
It is, and it's
Making
not
our voices
easy.
heard.
It's
Yeah.
not going to be easy.
Absolutely not.
I promise you, but it will be worth it.
Absolutely.
It will be worth it.
Yeah.
We would not have had the civil rights movement in this country had black people and their allies march in the streets with water hoses and dogs and police. They lost their lives. They were maimed. Some of them didn't live to see the advances of the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
We don't have that too much anymore. We don't get in the streets like that too much anymore. And we don't have to. We are smart now. We have drones and things, and we're smart. We have technology. I know I had a friend that has a young kid that there was a party and there was like a message on the link and 500 people showed up to the party. And I said, well, how did they do that? It was like within a day. You know, we're going to put out, there's going to be a party at this house, and they do it on the TikTok or whatever. And, and they, and I'm like, we have technology. We're smarter now. And I feel that we are in a better position than we've ever been to know exactly who we are advocating for and who we are advocating to. Because this that has come out, we only in the second week of February. And the stuff that has come out to harm these executive orders, to harm this public, they're not waiting. We need to get active.
No, and we were recently asked a question because we are responsible for helping host San Bernardino Pride. And recently we were just asked if we were going to be hosting again this year due to all the
Yes.
executive orders. And absolutely we will be. Absolutely
Why
we will
would
be.
we not be? First of all, we live in California.
Yeah.
That is a part of our culture.
Yeah.
We always try to do better here. We always try to do better here. So why wouldn't we? But I see messages. Somebody told me to go move to Cuba the other day. And I said, I've been here for all my entire life. My beliefs and how I advocate for people should not make people mad, right?
Right. But we're so divided right now. It feels like us versus half the population.
Yeah.
And I think even though there's so many of us, that's what feels so isolating right now and feels so scary. Because like you mentioned before, people who carry these beliefs feel really validated in those beliefs.
Empowered.
And we see that in the way in which they behave.
Yes.
I have seen behavior like that when I'm out with my clients. One of my clients had their car windows broken into because they had LGBT stickers on their car. Another client got misgendered at the DMV very confidently. You know, people are very confident in
They're
their
like,
beliefs right
let
now.
me just fix that.
So they're like, look, the man in charge, we won. So now everyone's going to show their true colors. And I think that people aren't going to start feeling better until, like you said, boots on the ground, until we start actually making those movements and we start seeing those
What
protests.
do you need people to do? What do you need the community to do? Because we coming into the community. This goes out to I don't know how many people on my YouTube and on the websites and all that stuff. I see, I don't get a lot of views, y'all. I don't get 1,000 views, but I know that people know about it. But I want us, because I'm going to tell them, I want you to tell them what you need from them. Right now, in this moment, What do you need for your population, for you to feel protected? What do you need?
I think part of it is really just showing out and coming to different celebrations. So like there are so many different ways, like you were talking about earlier, of how our protests, like we have gotten smarter, we have all this technology and different ways of doing things. So we have different ways of protesting, right? From not only boycotting, but then you have showing up to celebrations like a pride parade or a pride celebration, making sure that you are being heard. Go to listening sessions, go to your city council meetings, make sure you're being represented in some form. I think also sharing things on social media is really important. Uplifting queer voices is really important.
Yes.
And I think that that is the best thing that I could ask from the community, is really just connect with the people around you that identify as part of the LGBTQ plus
Right.
community and see specifically what they're needing and help support them. I think
Exactly.
having those one-on-one conversations with people in your life is really going to help as well, because being somebody like an ally who can provide comfort and a safe space for them to let out their frustrations or just how hard it's been.
Yeah, I know. It means a lot to just be that safe space. I tell people, I post on my site, if you having trouble with folks accepting you, text me, call me. I'm not, I don't judge you, So, Miss Jamie is going to read some art, because you can read art, yes. She's going to read a couple of pieces, and then we're going to go to break, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more.
All right, so this first piece I'm going to share is written by Oscar Lobos, who is with Family Assistance Program. He oversees the transitional houses, including Welcome Home, where I work. So Welcome Home wouldn't be what it is without Oscar.
Without him, exactly.
And this poem he wrote is really powerful. I think it's perfect for this radio show. It's about the student Next Benedict, who was
Rest in
murdered
peace,
at their high
baby.
school.
Rest in peace.
I didn't realize until I did a little bit of research yesterday, because I wanted to brush up on the history, but they tried to rule it out as a suicide instead of calling it what it is.
What it was.
So this
It was
is
a hate crime.
Right. All right, so again, this was written by Oscar Lobos. Next. Flying under an infrared radar is rather difficult when you have a glowing X painted on your back. The unwanted, not easily understood, the colorful, the castaways. Even neutrality is seen as an attack on the old but somehow new ways, a testament to how far we have actually come as a village. The Kool-Aid cannot hold color. There is no space for that here. It separates and sinks to the bottom, overshowered by the gray, flavorless, and pungent water. We live in a time where revealing yourself can cost you your life, where state laws put you in the lion's den, where someone can be bullied every day in high school until there are no more days in high school. A star was plucked from the heavens, crushed in calloused, chipped, nail-polished hands and turned into glitter that no one gets to play with. A child was murdered. A child was murdered. A child was murdered. These cries echoed by the voices of the many that have been killed out of hate, hate that hides behind the world fear. When Next was afraid, who was there? Headlines that have saturated taglines. Wikipedia, Next Benedict died after an incident at their high school on February 7th, 2024. BBC, the death of a teenager, Next Benedict, a day after a fight in Oklahoma school toilet has drawn national attention as vigils take place around the U.S. The Independent. Gender-fluid teenager endured more than a year of abuse simply for being who they are. 365 days of torment, a lifetime of misgendering, a story that transcends the body that should be here today. Notice how no one calls this a hate crime. Notice the apathy where empathy should live, but couldn't, rather wouldn't. Notice the lack of justice for this murder. Notice how it's not called a murder. Next was assaulted on my birthday. 2 days of candles, birthday wishes to a eulogy statements, the circle of life that's more of a bent hula hoop with holes, wide enough to push out any color that dares exist in a colorless, tasteless space. If next was forced to be next, then what's next? Who is next?
Man, that was.
I hope I did that poem justice
Beautiful.
because Oscar reads it really
Yeah,
beautifully. but-
Beautiful. Oh, kudos, Oscar Lobos.
Yes.
We're going to go to break. Thanks. We'll be right back.
KCAA Loma Linda.
One of the best ways to build a healthier local economy is by shopping locally. Teamster Advantage is a shop local program started by Teamster Local 1932 that has brought together hundreds of locally owned businesses to provide discounts for residents who make shopping locally their priority. Everything from restaurants like Corky's to fun times at SB Raceway and much, much more. If you're not currently a Teamster and you want access to these local business discounts, contact Jennifer at 909-889-8377, extension 224. Give her a call. That number again is 909-889-8377, extension 224.
And now, the voices of KCAA with an exciting announcement.
Want to hear NBC News or KCAA anywhere you go? Well, now there's an app for that.
KCAA is celebrating 25 years and our silver anniversary with a brand new app.
The new KCAA app is now available on your smart device, cell phone, in your car, or any place.
Just search KCAA on Google Play or in the Apple Store.
One touch and you can listen on your car radio, Bluetooth device, Android Auto, or Apple CarPlay.
Catch the KCAA buzz in your earbuds or on the streets, celebrating 25 years of talk, news, and excellence with our new KCAA app.
Just do it and download it.
KCAA, celebrating 25 years.
This is KCAA.
Welcome back, San Bernardino and Inland Empire. This is Shazad with Working in the Margins here on KCAA 1050 FM, 106.5 FM. And you can listen to us live on kcaaradio.com. And then you can catch us on the YouTube on KCAA TV. So I've had the blessing to sit here today with two wonderful advocates for the LGBTQIA trans population. They are social service workers and advocates for this population with Family Assistance Program here, and then we, Jamie, It's Welcome Home is the transitional program, and then we have Karina, who works out of our drop-in center for youth called Open Arms, and it's in downtown off of 7th and Arrowhead. And I think, which I'm really proud of, you all have such a great group there, great staff, very supportive, looks like the community, accepting, and you help folks get, to the things that they need and where they, but most of all, I think you guys, when I go there, and I keep going there, and I used to work out of that office. I go there all the time. I go to visit. I go for the energy.
And we love seeing you.
Thank you, because I love you all love people, and it's really. Yeah. I know we all at Family Assistance we have to love people in order to do this work.
Absolutely.
Right? We have to. It's not just a matter of a job. It's not just because it's not easy work. It's hard work when you are trying to transform lives, or have people realize that they need to prioritize things in their life in order to become successful, you know. And then doing that with kids or young people is hard. It's difficult. And you guys work with the 18 to 24 population, wherein people generally think those are adults.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they see them. And that's how they treat them, as if they are just, you know, whatever being an adult means to them.
Right.
That's the issue.
Like when I was 18, I was a mess. I didn't know what I was doing in this world. Like there was no way I was going to get along without the help of other people.
Exactly.
Absolutely not.
And we can't be naive to think that the world hasn't changed a whole lot where it doesn't foster independence of kids at 18 or 17 or 18. We just don't. We have built this whole narrative around going to college. Come out of school, go to college. Stay there for 4 years, go to secondary, master's there. But all that time.
But the whole time work full time and pay rent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we are unrealistic about what our expectations are as a society, I believe. So when folks, they say, you know, oh, you have housing, you house 18, 20, well, that's adult housing. No. We have transitional aged youth supportive services, because that's what 18 to 24 needs.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. We get kids 18 to 24 every day calling, saying that they need supportive services, not only with housing, but with learning how to even get on Medi-Cal or CalFresh. They need help with all the steps to become an independent adult, because it's not taught in our society.
No.
It's just kind of, you're thrown out there and you're left to figure it out.
If you don't go to college, you're on your own.
Quite honestly. And I think that it's really important that, like, we have houses like the LGBTQ house, Welcome Home, where advocates like Jamie can work individually with these youth and work on their case plans, work on their goals, and meet them where they're at. Whereas we're not pushing our own agenda onto them.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, and judging. We judge these kids that don't go to college. Some kids just want to go to work. My kid was like that, smart as a whip. But he was like, Mama, I want to make money. I was, okay. I says, I'm going to give you some time to figure that out, to do that. I'm not pressured for you to go to, you know, to put you in a situation that you feel like you're not going to succeed in, one, or, you know, struggle in, two, you know, so.
Everybody has their own path.
Everybody has their own path. And I think the world has changed enough that we can explore those paths, you know, with our folks. And I think this is a good talk, not just for our LGBTQ, but for our age. I think the tie-in is that life is tough enough. There's a lot of things we already have to go through. And then to go through identity issues or gender issues, misgendering, oppression, you know, just makes it that much harder. So when you hear that folks are checking out and unaliving themselves because they couldn't deal, they didn't want to, we should be asking ourselves, what did we do how did we not protect them?
Yeah.
What have we done? What are we doing that we're not protecting them from those pressures? And it always felt good that we had these programs that, you know, supported LGBTQ trans folks, you know, being able to get their care, you know, it's like these last 4 years, it's like we've had a lot of advances, but we had the freedom to kind of just, you know, it wasn't unprioritized. It was, you know, we could help them and, you know, and now it's like, okay, you know, now we got to try to help stabilize you as a age person, possibly, or an adult, and we have to try to reinforce you and build you up and turn you into an advocate for your own identity if you choose to identify differently than what the government has said.
Because we're already working against a system that's working against us. That was already happening. You
Right.
can't expect a 19-year-old who works at Carl's Jr., even if they're working full-time, you're expecting them to live on their own. You're expecting them to not need additional health care, low-income health care.
They qualify for everything. Still, $20 an hour at Carl's Jr.?
Nothing.
Who's that for? That's not, I don't know.
It's not a livable wage.
It take three people doing that
Yep.
to get one place.
Maybe
right?
a small place, and everyone still
Right.
needs to be on food stamps. And it's just crazy to me that the laws that they're changing first are things that have to do with identity, but nothing to do with our ridiculous cost of living.
Exactly. Because I'm still paying $20 for a flat of eggs, y'all. I
Yeah,
don't know
what happened to
about
the
anybody.
egg prices?
I know.
down?
You know. Jamie, I want you to read your second piece before we go to this next, or we're going to be wrapping up soon. How many more minutes we got? Oh, okay, good. I want you to read the piece because I want you to be able to finish it.
I have a small one, so that might work better
Oh,
with
awesome.
our time anyway.
Take your time.
I wrote this one in 2020, and I wanted to bring this one because it's about hitting rock bottom, feeling very low, but finding a way to enjoy the little things, even when it feels like the world is falling apart.
Oh, that's what we need right now. Go ahead, preach.
So it's called Resurface. When you are at the bottom, behold drowning. How astounding the quiet evenings, or on the days where nothing breaks. Appreciate the shallow end, where not much happens between now and noon, where a bigger breath is a bigger step to becoming a better balloon. I know you wish to be weightless, but don't forget the human in you. Sink in the humility, hit the bottom, bounce. Behold drowning, behold hands reaching out. The worst is over, I promise, it's over. Come, resurface now.
Hey, now. Oh, that's what we need to do. We need to take a big, deep breath and reaffirm our commitment that we're going to take care of people. I think everybody that cares about in our community, San Bernardino and IE, if you care about people and you're in this work or you're doing social service work, and you are working with marginalized populations, be sensitive just to the fact that, like Jamie said, they're going after our identity. They're not doing anything to change, how we are living, our cost effectiveness, anything like that. They're trying to erase identity and remove identities, as if to say, if we erase it, then you don't exist, or everybody's going to be straight now,
right?
So when we're working together and we're in community, when we're working with, be sensitive to what's going on in the government, how it's affecting them. There's some fear out there. Let folks know that you love them. That you're not the judge of them. That's not our role. That's not our role. That's not our job. That's not our role in this. That's not what we are asked to do. We are asked to help the least of thee. That's the commandment. Everybody. He didn't say this, that, or the other. He said everybody. That's my commandment. And things will go so much easier and so much better if everybody is recognized. We would have so many more advantages if we included and recognized every population, because everybody brings something. Everybody brings something to the table. And I'm going to keep bringing folks to the table like Jamie. I'm going to keep bringing folks to the table like Karina, because I need you all in the community out there to see who they are, I want them to keep talking about who they help and who they serve. These are your kids, your cousins, your nieces, your nephews, your comadres, these are the folks that come. You may not even know. Because there's so much stereotype and so much fear and secrecy. People don't, they're afraid to come out now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's pushing a lot of people
Back into the
further
closet.
into the closet.
Yeah.
People who haven't come out yet are definitely probably don't feel safe enough now.
Yeah.
And that's
I
why
personally don't want to live in a world without this population, LGBT. I don't. It just doesn't, it's not of interest to me because I value and I thrive off of diversity.
I was just about to say, like, living in an undiverse world sounds really boring.
Really boring.
And like you would learn nothing.
No.
Because that's the greatest gift of having diversity in this world and having different people around you from different cultures, different backgrounds, walks of
Yes.
life, is getting to learn life lessons. I
Yes.
mean, taking away something and just getting to
Learning
be around
from
the
each
beauty
other.
of it all.
I learned something. I learned something from, I learned stuff from people, but I'm also a seeker of knowledge. I look to learn from people.
Yeah.
Because I never want to disenfranchise anybody because of my lack of understanding. So
Absolutely.
I always want to try to, have some type of insight. It's just always been important to me.
Yeah, and that should be important to everyone.
It should be important to everyone.
I would say that would be one of the best pieces of advice you can give people right now. Is
I think
to
so.
Have that open mind to be,
Go talk to other people.
Yes.
Get out there. Get out of
Get
your
out
box.
there. We have an immigrant issue right now. I don't think that anybody realized that it was gonna, take off as fast, but there's been some raids and, and things like that. And family assistance, we have gone, I think we're on the front lines of a lot of advocacy. So we get a lot of direction from our leadership about the issues and what's going on, and they address them with us. And man, I think that we responded very quickly to the immigration issue because, number one, I believe that we have undocumented people in our programs and we have to protect them. But in general, we have undocumented people in our communities and in our families and things like that. But we came out with a red card that says, these are your rights and things like that. And I was very proud of our agency for taking, that's a step to helping to protect people.
Yep, absolutely.
By telling them their rights and giving them, and we went as far as to make something to put it in their hand so they can, they can have it at their ready in case anything. So that's why I am proud to work for Family Assistance for many reasons, but we really try to protect people. We really try to go the extra mile to protect people. We felt that LGBTQ people didn't have a safe, solid place to go to transition, and we made it.
Mm-hmm. And it's now more important than ever to
How
have
many years now?
a couple.
Yes.
Going on 2, yeah.
Wonderful.
If not 2. But yeah, now more than ever to have a queer exclusive place is really important.
It is
because
really
they feel
important.
safe within their own community, and,
Yes.
and even staff's part of the community. So
Yes.
they're really with their people there.
Yes. Ladies, thank you so much. Oh,
Thank you.
the Love Show. Thank you so much. Happy Valentine's Day tomorrow.
Valentine's
I'm only
Day.
saying that because, that's the thing to say. But love each other every day and show your love to people that really, are living out there looking like they don't have a lot of love around them. Just yell at them, say, hey, how you doing? Okay? And I'll be back next week. Thank you again, ladies. It's been an honor to talk to you and listen to your perspective. It's a blessing to work with you and this agency. So again, we'll be back next week. Thank you so much.
NBC News on KCAA.
KCAA.
KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and the stations that leave no listener behind. I'm Mark Westwood, your pronouncer on the Don Williamson and More Tax Saver Show here today on KCAA, along with our guest Tashimi Gashugi. Okay. And we'll be talking about a lot of things today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, it is Don Williamson. Hello, Don.
Hello there, Mark, and hello to all you out there in Radio Land. You know, we got an interesting guest coming up, but first I got some things that I want to recap. And is that volume as high to them as it is for me? Anyhow, I want to talk about what's kind of on my mind about the Super Bowl. Start with.
Because you lost money to me.
You know, there was a record set there, I think. I honestly think that Patrick Mahomes had a record, was set by the number of sacks.
Oh, my
I never
gosh.
saw the quarterback sack so many times in my life. Just one way, he couldn't get going.
Oh, I know it. 2 Super Bowl rings on his fingers, and, you know, he just couldn't get it going. For Patrick Mahomes, yeah, it was a bad day for him. But, you know, you called me just moments before the kickoff of the Super Bowl. Shouldn't have done that, Don.
You should have gave me 10 or 15 points.
He said.
And it still wouldn't have been enough.
Said to me, he said, "Who are you rooting for, the Eagles or the Kansas City Chiefs?" And I said, "The Rams." "Oh, they're not in the Super Bowl?" "Oh, okay." So I said, "Well, everybody at my party's rooting for the Eagles, so I'll do that." And he said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll do Eagles by 2." And he went for it. And it wound up being the Eagles, not by 2, but a whole lot more. But yeah, at least by 2. And I only won $20, but you know.
Yeah, at halftime I called you back and said something that is drawing interest.
You know, that all went back to the Native Sons, by the way. That money went right back to the Native Sons. That
I
night.
know.
We had tacos on Tuesday.
Taco
Tacos and
Tuesday.
Valentine's with the Native Sons of the Golden West, which I'm president of, and Don's a member of too. And we enjoyed some really good food at the Mexico.
It was great, terrific. I love there.
And some good company too.
Yeah.
And we always raise money for cleft palate and things like that, so it just went back into that. It was all good humor, and that was a good thing. Super Bowl was enjoyable. I had a great time. I spent the Super Bowl with the family and the relatives and the employees of some good friends of mine at one of my favorite haunts in Redlands called the Tartan Restaurant.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I love their big hamburgers.
So they closed down the restaurant because they figured nobody's going to watch or eat food. So but they had all the employees there, which I've gone there for like 15 years. So I knew them all. And then the one guy named Sam Works actually rents a room for me. So he's my roomie, and he works there too. So I was a +1 for Sam, and got in there and had a great time. And Jeffrey Solomon did something I've never seen Jeffrey do, and that's give something away for free. If he's listening to this or he hears this, it's going to be funny. But no, it was very generous. Some great food, and we had all free drinks, and we did an opportunity pool, and there was some dice being thrown around here and there too when it got slow. I'll just say that. But yeah, we had a good time. Babies running around and everything. So I hope you had a good Super Bowl. What did you do?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was watching Super Bowl with my son who came down from up near San Diego.
So you had a little family Super Bowl party at your house?
My brother-in-law was there, yeah.
Nishimi, what did you do anything for the Super Bowl? Are you a football fan?
I am a football fan. I was really rooting to see Patrick Mahomes get a three-peat. I know a lot of people want to see him lose. And I think it's one of those things that I don't think can be replicated, at least in my lifetime. So it was a little bittersweet, but also I think Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles, they dominated from start to finish. So you got to give them credit. And so
But it was sort of a little bit.
They were good.
If you're optimistic,
Fantastic.
it was closer than you thought. Well, they got down. It was just the way things happened. They got down to I think it was about the 10-yard line.
The only way they were close, Don, is they were both in the same stadium.
That's 100% true. truer words never spoken. That's true. But no, well, and when it started, or before it started.
Yeah, the game was. I could tell you what the score was before it started.
0-0. And they got the flip that went the way I wanted it to, so they would come back to half. It didn't do them any good, but anyhow, no. The first score that they lost on, they were about 10 yards from the goal line, and it either was intercepted or something, and they didn't get it. If they'd have got it, they would have scored 7 points, well, with the extra kick. And anyway, so that would have been 7 points, but they didn't get it, so they didn't get that. And then later on in the game, down at the other's end, they were just, they must have gotten the kickoff and caught it, and it was about on the 10-yard line going the other way. And they lost the ball. The Eagles got it, went in for a touchdown. So if you could take those two back and give them to the Chiefs, they would have won.
Yeah, or just
but that didn't happen.
If they win next year, it's kind of a three-peat, but just not continuous.
Sure.
Anyway,
I want to thank you for letting me pay you the money. For making me.
I want in next year.
See, I'm from Kansas. Now I realize that the Kansas City Chiefs is not from Kansas City, Kansas. They're from Kansas City, Missouri, the big city, but still close enough that. And I like Patrick Mahomes, but if you look at his year that he had, there were lots of times at the very end is where he won it. But he didn't give him that many points.
All right. Well, so this has been the Roundup Show for the Super Bowl 59.
Okay, now we'll go on. Now I want to wish everybody out there in Radio Land a very happy New Year, yeah. Happy Valentine's Day tomorrow.
Tomorrow's Valentine's Day.
And that's the time that there's going to be people. Don't forget, by the way.
Happy Single Awareness Day.
Don't forget to get your loved one, your sweetheart or your spouse, your wife. Don't forget to get her a little. Diamonds are good, by the way. Diamond necklace, diamond bracelet.
You know why I'm not married?
Pinky ring is dying.
You know why I'm not married? Because I'm going to give this advice. The Dollar Tree has $3 little heart things with chocolate in them, and that's what she should do. It's
that's
commercialized.
Not gonna get you,
do you know what Single Awareness Day? Do you know the acronym for Single Awareness Day?
You're single, I bet, aren't you?
Nobody'd have me.
You gotta think in terms of
nobody'd have me
of romancing your sweetheart.
Yeah, I'm going to take myself out for dinner, and so yeah. You know what? You know what the acronym for Single Awareness Day is?
What?
SAD. Single Awareness Day.
And I'm sad for you.
That's
right. My wife and I was married 49 and a half years.
You are so very fortunate.
Her boyfriend talked me. He broke up with her and took somebody else and talked me into taking her out. His big mistake. That gave me 49 and a half years and 3 sons, a whole lifetime.
My mom and dad, when my dad passed away, they were married 49 and a half years too.
Oh, really?
And my mother was very sad, for her whole entire life after that. But, they were married for 49 and a half years, and I thought everybody got that. But no, not everybody gets that. And you're very, very fortunate, and it's like winning the lottery. And congratulations. To see me, are you married?
I'm much to my mother's chagrin. I'm not married and I don't have kids. But my parents have been together for 45 years. And I told them recently, I went to go see them, I said, the greatest gift you gave to us as kids was the view of what a great marriage looked like. Like 45 years later, it still feels like you love being around each other.
Isn't that nice?
And then once you get onto the real world, you realize what you thought was normal was actually exceptional.
Yeah.
And so I celebrate them today.
I told my mother I was going to buy a billy goat, and I'm going to say I could have a kid.
She got to take her wins.
But I came from a family of 5. I had 23 nephews and nieces, so she didn't need anymore. How many grandchildren do you have? You have 3 sons, don't you?
Oh, me?
Yeah. You're the host of the show.
I have 3 sons. One's passed away the year before my wife did. And let's see. So, what you got? How many grandkids?
Yeah.
Well, 2. Dale's got 2 kids. Donald has none because he's not married either. He's taken after you 2. Listen, it's been proven that married men live longer than single. I just want to tell you that.
Well, it's not halftime yet, so give me a little bit of time.
That's right.
Still a chance to score.
But I got to tell you what happened.
Let's do another bet. No.
But I got to tell you a sad thing. See, my good friend that was going to study with it, broke up, to take out somebody else. He later got married. It lasted 1 year, got divorced, and never married again. I got 49 and a half years and 3 wonderful sons out of it.
There you go. That's a wonderful thing. That is a
So,
wonderful thing.
Yeah. Anyway,
Valentine's Day tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Let me call you sweetheart. I'm in love with you. I don't know any more of the words, but Eric can take that and we'll lead out.
You know, that's about
and
what
I
I've
want
been
some
singing.
local news too, if you can do that.
I've been singing that very song, and
Really?
that's about as far as I got.
They call that an earworm when that gets into your ear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about exemptions, and then I'll probably let our guest speaker talk.
It'd be nice because he came all
Yeah,
this way. in
because
the rain.
we had pretty much given out all of the San Bernardino County ones, and I'm still getting them, but I did get some more of the Riverside County ones. I even have them with me, and I did order the holder to put them in. So we're going to put some up here. You know, at the old place before you moved over here, we had some exemption forms. that
Yeah,
were
we'll
on
have
hand.
to put that inside this radio station because I was informed on that their little rack there is not for us to put
Oh,
stuff
no,
in.
I realized that. I didn't put anything over there.
Okay.
I figured that. But plus, ours, we can't probably put them on the wall like they did either. There's the screws and the hangs there, and no, they would probably get upset if we started putting them. But I got a holder to put them in, and I'm going to put up. I got the new Riverside forms. We'll be putting Riverside County forms in there.
There are
Then
two
we-
words that I want you to learn
What's that?
before you do anything drastic around here or do something like that.
Think.
Anna and Bell.
Oh yeah,
Anna
yeah,
and
yeah.
Bell. Annabelle.
Yeah.
Oh, no. You don't want to do that.
And I used to park behind her out there to sit Annabelle.
Mm-hmm.
She's the big queen.
No, we're not going any further. I value my life.
I was going to say king, but I said queen. Okay, so I do have some, because of the fires, I do have more disaster and calamity damage forms.
Okay.
And you know, there's a big discussion as to how some of them should be handled as far as lowering the values. Taking off the structure value is easy. And I keep saying, yeah, but you need to lower the land value also. For one reason, in appraisal, when they appraise the land, an improved site, which it is when there's a house on it, you have your utilities, but that they put that in the land. Well, you can't use those utilities no more; they're destroyed. And you also have a massive cleanup process at the end of this too, which makes that negative on what's left. So that's they should lower that land, and it's a fault of one of the state agencies. I won't say their name, but it's their job to advise the assessors, so they interpret the laws for us. But I did learn, and I stuck my neck out when I was the assessor. I stuck my neck out for the owners, and we lowered the land value some, and also stuck my neck out for the veterans, because the organization, before I left office and retired, I found out that we only had 6 American Legions in the entire county. So before I left, I said, get out there and find them. We're going to give them their exemptions. They did. We had to use the phone book. We had to call other American Legions and say, hey, where are all of your people?
Well, the state of California is doing pretty good. There was over 11,000 houses burned in like a couple different counties.
We had 15,000.
15.
When I was a
15,
county
yeah.
assessor.
So I said over 11.
Not to mention,
it
that's
was
burned to the ground, that is. Not to mention the 30,000 and 35,000 that was partially damaged.
a lot happened in January, I got to tell you.
Yeah. But anyway.
I ended my user agreement. I turned in my 14-day trial. I said, I don't want to do this anymore.
But we also suggest, because I got Proposition 8 decline in value forms, and I suggest they file them both. And also, there's a website for the assessor's office, and there is on the forms. I could actually read them off, but I've done that before. The forms come from the assessor's office. Everything that's in it is state law. So one county versus another county. In fact, if somebody from Riverside County brings it into San Bernardino County, we accept it. If it's the other way around, they accept it. It doesn't matter, and they go ahead and then process it. But there's reasons why I suggest both. And because if they don't lower your land value one way, they should lower it another. But back to what I did. So the state board, I said who it was. I didn't mean to say that. Anyway, well, they enforced it. They interpret the laws for us anyway.
You didn't say the whole name of State Board of Equalization.
Yeah, I used to call it that, but they call.
You didn't say State Board of Equalization.
But they're called the BOE now.
Yeah.
They used to be called the State Board of Equalization.
Now it's BOE, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I just went on a limb and I went out and signed up 12 American Legions myself. And I probably told that story before when I said, is the commander here? No. Is the treasurer here? No. Well, who's in charge? He says, well, he looked around and said, well, I guess I am. I said, you the officer of the day then? Yeah. That's who I'm looking for. And I helped him fill out the form and I said, sign here.
Was he the officer of the day and the bartender?
Well, he was. I think he was chief cook and bottle washer. I think he was everything for the day. But anyway.
That means he turned the deep fryer on.
And I ordered them granted.
Uh-huh.
And there was one thing that Christine Crusade, at the time she was assistant chief counsel for the BOE.
Hello, Don Williamson. I'm live on the air right now. I can't talk to you.
Shut that thing off now.
Hang up.
That happens at church in Kiwanis too, and I get fined in the Kiwanis.
Yeah, I know. I know. That was in the Native Sons. You get fined too.
So anyway, so I ordered them done. I found out Christine taught me one thing. Even though they interpret the laws, I have the last say. If I think I'm right, and I make sure that I'm right before I cross them, and I order it done, they have two choices: accept what I've done or take me to court. And they've never taken me to court.
There you go.
So,
well, we only got about maybe 4 minutes left in this half hour.
Is that right?
So we're going to wrap up what we're going to say because we're going to come back with the Shima.
Well, anyway, I have the other forms too. I have the declining forms, homeowners exemption form, veterans organization form, disabled American veterans form, and there are some others. And I will have those here if anybody happens to come by. The church, I missed saying the church's form, the church exemption, which and / religious exemption, which is the best one I have, because you file it one time and the other, you have to keep filing. If you quit filing, then it gets assessed, and and you get it both ways. Anyhow, because we met that pastor the other day, and I got the forms for her. If she will come in, I will be glad to give them to her.
Suzette was just on the air right before you. We walked right down past the hallway. We didn't ask her about that.
Yeah.
But we were busy getting on the air. So there's a lot of different forms. If you are a fire victim that you can get a hold of, and you go, and I'm just going to recap this real quick. You go to the Board of Equalization of the state of California, who are not to blame for anything. We just happen to have referenced them. Board of Equalization, where you can get those forms. And of course, when you're selling your home, right, you want to go for the highest amount, the highest comp you can. But when you're a victim, you want to find the lowest amount because you want to have your property taxes as low as possible because you're not really using the property, and you're the victim of it. Plus, when you clear the property, if I've ever heard you right, that's another liability which lowers the value of the property. And I don't know what it costs to clear a property of a bunch of burned down house anymore, but I bet
they're looking for a state to put it in.
Yeah. They're looking. They want to bury it anywhere. They're trying to bury it at the beach too down there, and they said no.
No.
Yeah. So there's all these houses. They got to find a place to put it. I've got a few candidates there. People where they could send it to. Billionaire, Elon, whatever his name is, Musk. You can bury it next to all those dead Teslas he has.
I don't know if the insurance companies pay for that cleanup and stuff, but they should, because that's part of the damage.
Yeah.
In coverage A dwelling on an insurance form,
Here's a man that knows.
That's part of debris removal.
It does include.
Yeah. However,
Wonderful.
on a fair plan, if someone lives in a high fire area and they're saying, "Hey, we'll cover farmers," let's say, "we'll cover everything except fire, but the state will cover."
The state only covers fire only, don't they?
Yeah, the fair plan will. But however, on the fair plan, you have to make sure with your agent that coverage A dwelling on that will just cover the reconstruction for the home, but there's a separate portion for debris removal, which is up to 5%. So if people don't have that 5% on there, or they just didn't check with their agent to make sure, they may be in a claim.
To the microphone.
They may be in a claim where, hey, my house burned down, but I don't have any debris removal on my policy. So people, particularly if you do have a California Fair Plan, make sure to review with your agent to say, hey, do I have debris removal as part of this thing? Because you don't want to be stuck with $25,000 or $30,000.
In the old days, you just get a pickup truck and remove it. Nowadays, you have to have all this toxic stuff and asbestos and lead paint and all that. So that you have to have somebody certified that removes it, right?
Sure. Sure. So basic, and that's the claims adjuster will come and make sure that the right people within that will come and take care of that. That's under the purview of debris removal. But what I find in my experience is 99% of the time when people try and buy home insurance up front or when they're in escrow, they don't. I ask them, has anyone actually explained to you what this means in the event of a claim? And so a lot of people assume they have things covered that they don't. So I always tell people, before you even buy anything, whether you want it or not, let's talk about what this means in the event of a claim. I'd rather you be upset with me at the price or it doesn't work for you up front than be in a claim and be like, I thought you covered me, but now things hit the fan. So
that's even worse.
That's the expert talking because he's the insurance man.
Which, by the way, Don, we're going to have him talking about at the other side of this break here. You know, we have to pay the bills and the commercials and all that stuff we do. And the local news is coming up next. And when we come back from Allstate, you said? Farmers. Oh, sorry. Forgive me.
Okay.
Mea culpa. From Farmers, and also going to be talking about Medicare. Dashima Gashuki. And, of course, we'll return with Don Williamson, Tax Saver, and more. Right after this, I'm Mark Westwood on KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM. Out we go.
KCAA.
For KCAA 1050 NBC News Radio and Express 106.5 FM. Fontana City officials have signed a multi-year lease agreement with Aldea Apartments for low-income eligible residents. The multi-family development offers 78 units. 8 of the units will provide permanent housing for individuals who transition out of homelessness. Riverside and San Bernardino counties lead California in training apprentices. The Inland Empire has nearly 14,000 active apprentices as of September 2024. The Inland Empire is training a higher share of apprentices in the state. While the Inland Empire labor force accounts for 11% of all of California workers, the region's active apprentices represents 4.2% of all apprentices in California. Inland Empire apprenticeships are in building and construction trades, firefighting, and personal services such as barber or cosmetology. The Cheech Marin Center for Chicano Art and Culture is becoming a force for Riverside's growing economy. A recent study found that the Cheech injected $2.2 million into local restaurants, $1.5 million into local retail stores, and $510,000 into local hotels. With 250,000 visitors over its first 2 years, the Cheech has exceeded the museum's expectations. Actor Cheech Marin is one of the foremost collectors of Chicano art in the world. He donated much of his collection of Chicano art, including paintings, sculptures, photography, and video art. Inland Empire weather. Rain becoming heavy at times on Thursday, then diminishing to showers Friday. Highs through Friday in the 50s, overnight lows in the 40s. Partly cloudy, drier, and a little warmer over the weekend. For KCAA 1050 AM NBC News Radio and Express 106.5 FM, I'm Lillian Vasquez, and you're up to date.
One of the best ways to build a healthier local economy is by shopping locally. Teamster Advantage is a shop local program started by Teamster Local 1932 that has brought together hundreds of locally owned businesses to provide discounts for residents who make shopping locally their priority. Everything from restaurants like Corky's to fun times at SB Raceway and much, much more. If you're not currently a Teamster and you want access to these local business discounts, contact Jennifer at 909-889-8377, extension 224. Give her a call. That number again is 909-889-8377, extension 224.
KCAA.
KCAA 1050 AM 106.5 FM, and welcome back to the second part of the Don Williamson Taxpayer Saver and More right here at KCAA 1050. I'm Mark Westwood, your announcer, and today we have a special guest in the studio. I'm going to let Don introduce him. Dashima Gashugi. That's how we did see if your microphone's on.
Are we on?
You're on, yes. Dashima
Gashugi.
Dashima. I just put it all together.
You just
Dashimi. We're going to turn on a Dashimi Dashugi.
There you go.
Actually, because he's a tall man, he joined Kiwanis, and I had trouble with his name also. So he said, just call me Big D.
Well, it is an honor to have you here.
And I'm glad you're here.
Thank you for inviting me. I
It is
appreciate
an
this
honor to
opportunity.
hear because, not only is he a local businessman here in insurance and in Medicare, we're going to talk about that a little bit. He is also featured in a book by Anaprita Das on Bill Gates, billionaire, nerd, savior, king, Bill Gates and his quest to shape our world. And it's just like right up front. I'm going to read, folks, something here from page 9. I'm going to put my glasses on first. I'm getting old, and then I can pronounce your name right because I can see it. And it's chapter 1, Why We Love Billionaires, Seeking Billionaire Wisdom. Dashimi Gashuga is a bit of a stuntman, it says. Every July for 5 of the past 9 years, Gashigi has flown or driven more than 800 miles from the east of Los Angeles, where you live. That would be somewhere around Rancho Cucamonga? Or
It was in Yucaipa.
in Yucaipa.
Yeah.
We all live I live in Yucaipa too. Okay. Where he lives, to a small resort town of Sun Valley. Not Sun City, but Sun Valley, Idaho. It's in Idaho. There he lolls about, hoping to grab the attention of a billionaire or two, or 3 or 4, as they swoop in from all over the world in their private jets for an annual confab dubbed the Summer Camp for Billionaires, which I understand and hear and understand it's, you got to have the inside information when that's being done. But in 2017, Gashugi stood by the side of the road, no pride, just said, I'm doing it. That's right. With an enormous sign that read, Messrs. Bloomberg and Gates, entrepreneur from California seeks advice, coffee's on me. He added his number at the bottom of the sign, which he had printed at a shop near his home, and stuffed it into his car, pulling down its back seat to be able to do so. 4 years later, in 2021, must have been during the pandemic, right?
Yes.
He paid $1,500 to rent a spacesuit from WonderWorks, a California company that builds replicas of space shuttles and other gear for movie studios and theme parks. Gashugi, who was working as a real estate agent at the time, squeezed his 6-foot 4-inch frame into a 30-pound suit as he stood by the roadside once again holding another giant sign. This time he hoped to catch the attention of Jeff Bezos, the Amazon founder, who is commercializing space travel through Blue Origin, his aerospace company. In 2019, Bezos had shown off a 4-legged moon lander that Blue Origin was building, which he said could deliver cargo and humans to the moon surface by 2024. Jeff Bezos seeking this, just 1 second, I have to turn the page, and it's always hard for me to do that. Seeking moon colony listings, can speak Klingon. Let's have dinner. Can you actually speak Klingon? Your name is Klingon. That's what it is. Gashugi.
It's related. I'm related
Dashimi Gashugi.
I'm related to Klingons.
Am I even anywhere close to Shigi? Dashimi?
Gashugi. You said it like a native Rwandan, so you're pretty close.
Okay. Well, that's pretty impressive. That's page 9 and 10 of this book, which you can get on Amazon, or you can get it at B. Dalton's or any place as all.
No, Barnes and Noble, I think.
Barnes and Noble too,
everywhere.
and it's pretty nice. It's a hardback, a pretty nice book here with the face of Bill Gates on it. If you happen to be watching on the camera, and Dashimi. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
He calls me in 2 seconds before this show.
It's
I would have rehearsed that beforehand. But welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
And Don, you have some questions for him?
Yeah, tell us about how you come to do all of this, and where you came from.
So a lot of this is going to need some context, because I'm sure when you hear it up front, there's all kinds of question marks. So
And can you do it in Klingon?
I can't give context in Klingon, but I recorded a video in Klingon, and that's where I was playing it. But I'll give some
Didn't
context.
someone teach you how to do it, or say it, or something?
Well, I'll get to
You'll
that.
get to
so,
that.
So it all
Okay.
kind of comes together cohesively.
I want to hear some Klingon today.
Oh, okay. I mean, we can get there.
Okay, we'll get there. We'll
But
get there.
just a little bit of context, because I'm sure a lot of listeners are wondering, like, why would the wall? So the book was written by the finance editor of the New York Times, and so people might be wondering, why would the finance editor of the New York Times call a local farmer's agent about a book regarding Bill Gates? So a lot of that's going to need a bit of context. So 7 years prior, when you mentioned in the story the Book of the Sign and Sun Valley, the sign wasn't my preferred method of communication.
But I love it. It's so cool.
But it ended up setting me up for things that I didn't anticipate. So in 2014, my first business tanked, and I was doing investing. So I thought to myself, I need to find people who know how to win.
Mhm.
So the Sun Valley Annual Conference is a conference where the world's most powerful people in media, finance, tech, sports commissions, you name it, they're all there. The dates aren't published, the lists aren't published, and if you don't know about it, you're not supposed to. The only reason I knew about the conference is right after I graduated from college in 2010, I took a one-way ticket to Omaha because I really believed I could get a hold of Warren Buffett and convince him to give me an internship. So during that first week of July, he wasn't around because I was looking for a 2000 metallic gray Cadillac DeVille, and I was gonna just say in my mind, that's why I didn't get a return.
So you flew to Omaha to stock Bill Gates, Warren Buffett.
Yeah, I had $2,100, so I figured I'd last about a month. So it was do or die. Something had to happen. So during that first week, I didn't find him, and when I did research, that's when I discovered Sun Valley, and I saw Gates and Zuckerberg and all these people, and that's what planted the seed to say, oh, this is where he hangs out. But subsequently, I did end up getting a hold of him. They kicked me out of the building, but I found out you could get into the garage. So because I knew a car he drove, I just put letters under his windshield wiper, and he eventually wrote me a really gracious note.
So you were either looking for billionaires at the Federal Reserve Bank, and then
it was less about billions, as more as I was after human capital. I
Yeah.
figured this is a man who knows how to win. I don't know how to win, but I could probably shorten my learning curve getting around people who know how to win. So that was really, I was 22. I was like, what do I have to lose? I could spend the next 10 years of my life trying, fail, start over, and people will chalk it up to youthful ignorance. So I tried. My story is emblematic of trying to make the best of my youth and capitalizing on the best I could. So
that's pretty cool. You know, I've been listening to a billionaire speak lately that's in close affiliation with the new administration. I'll just put it that way. And I'm like, wow, that must have been like an asteroid hitting the Earth at 2 billion miles an hour, and pinpointing Colton, because I'm like, how'd you get there? How'd this happen? This was an accident for sure.
A big part of my story involves said person and the Klingon video and all of that as a consequence. So I get where you're coming from.
Like, sometimes I talk to some people. Like, I'm involved in politics, right? And the first congressman I ever met, I was in awe. I thought, wow, this is going to be an incredible conversation. And I walked away. And I went, that guy is dumb as a box of rocks. How did that happen? Sometimes it is just by sure, like winning the lottery, but sometimes it's not. Sure. And sometimes you can get some nuggets from some of these billionaires and millionaires that might strike like lightning or in a bottle. But I don't know. Did you learn anything from talking to any of these people?
Absolutely. So in 2015, I figured I'm gonna crash. So one of the gentlemen that I didn't know that happened to be an attendee, because he knew I knew the guy who hosts it. I don't know if he realized I was using the information against him in a way, but I called him and I said, hey, I'm going to be in Sun Valley during X, Y, and Z dates. Any chance we can meet? Because I figured if he said yes, that might be the date. So when he said yes, I knew, okay, this is the week. So in 2015, I made a plan to write, say, 7 to 8 CEOs I want to talk to, try not to create a security risk. And my objective was to say, hi, my name is Dushime. I'm an entrepreneur, and I flew out here to ask you about your habits of success. Do you have a moment? Right? It's yes or no. And almost all of them stopped. And it was incredible. So in 2016, I said, wait, No one's here. I am literally the only person on earth that's taking advantage of this. Let me try and talk to the 25 richest people in the world, because it's me versus them, and there's no gatekeepers. Because when you're trying to get a hold of these people outside of the gathering, you got assistants, deputy, vice, whatever that you have to get through. So I figured this might be more systematic. The challenge was, and this is why I ended up with the sign. In 2016, the first day I got there, Philando Castile got shot by the police on video. The second day, Alton Sterling got shot by the police on video, and it was going all over. It went viral. And then on the third day was the Dallas cop shooting. And so my parents called me and said, hey, you know what? We're a little bit concerned. You're a tall black man in the middle of Idaho. I don't know if you're watching the news, but like maybe you might want to chill out on Friday until things kind of settle down. So I said, okay. They don't usually get it. Try and get in the way. Now on Friday, I was not bothering anyone. I wore African dashiki. I'm sitting in jeans, not bothering anyone. What I failed to realize is all over the news on Friday was a black man in a similar dashiki going everywhere. So when I was headed back to my Airbnb that evening, I got surrounded by the police.
Oh, no.
And they issued a no trespass order, and they said, how are you figuring out the dates? And I mean, it was like a movie. I'm like, how did things escalate to here? I didn't even talk to anyone today. Like, I haven't even been to the principal's office, let alone all these police. So in 2016, I had no intention to come back. But between 2016 and 2017, I got fired from my day job. And I said to myself, okay, God, I need to get myself to a headspace that if I'm going to take this entrepreneurial route, I need to have something so undeniable that no matter how hard it gets beyond this moment, I can look back to that and use that as a way to keep going. So in 2017, I came back to Sun Valley, but since I was banned from the property, I had a sign and I stood on public property. And there's only one main way in and out. So because I'd been there twice, I knew the flow, where the traffic goes. I wasn't going to violate anything. I was going to take my shot. And the two of the people on my list were Mike Bloomberg and Bill Gates. So I stood out there for 3 days. 9 hours the first day, nothing.
Wow.
Then it goes into the local news. 9 hours the second day, then CNBC calls. But what's interesting with media, they don't tell you whether they publish it or don't publish it. You only find out if people kind of hit you up or you see something. Third day, nothing. So I drive home Friday thinking, they must have just blown me off. And on Saturday morning, I wake up to a voicemail. And the voicemail said the following. This is Mike Bloomberg. Bill and I saw your sign. Well, I didn't see it. People told us about it. But I thought I'd just give you the courtesy of a call. I'll try to call you during the day on Monday. I call the number back, and it's his cell phone. I leave a message, and I'm thinking, there's no way he's going to call me back on Monday. Monday morning, 7:30 a.m., he calls me back. And he's just like, this is Bloomberg. Couldn't quite hear your message. What's your story? I said, Mr. Bloomberg, it's very simple. My first business tanked in the middle of starting my second one. I got fired from my day job, and I thought to myself, who's had the best comeback ever from getting fired? And that's you. So I came to Sun Valley to ask you and Bill Gates to sit down. Coffee is about as all as I can afford at this point, to figure out who do I need to become at 29 to deserve that kind of success in my 70s. So I said, here's what I'd like to do, but when it comes to things like building teams, raising money, scaling, I don't know, but either I figure you know, or you know the best person in the world who does. So do you mind if every 3 to 6 months, I reach out with a question as I'm figuring things out? If you have time, you can hit me back. If not, I get it. I don't want your money. I'm not looking for anything. I stood outside with a sign only because I was banned. So otherwise, I would have approached normally. And so he's like, you have my cell. Here's my direct office. Here's my direct email. And so that was the catalyst that set me up for how the book thing came, because when I went, I did not go looking for publicity. I just was pinned in a position where I didn't have any other choice if I was going to shoot my shot. And so part of what the book talks about is the journey of leveraging all this great publicity through the local media and CNBC and say, oh, how do I take this media in such a way that I can use this for sales so people get a sense of who I am and how before they even do business with me, rather than just being one of however many agents or what have you.
That's a great story. Just amazing. A lot of times billionaires, what I've noticed and analyzed is billionaires are big picture kind of people. they don't get involved in the details too much. Sometimes that's not a good thing because they don't know the details, they don't know what sometimes. But, you know, we tend to get involved on the smaller level, or the lower level of a plane, and we don't see the forest through the trees. And if that makes sense to you, I don't know why I'm not a billionaire yet, but I'm not.
You're on your way. You're still here.
I'm looking for that lightning in a bottle. I admire you for doing that and spending all that tenacity to stand outside a roadside into the flies and the heat in the middle of Omaha. That was a lot.
Well, there's a power of being young and very naive, but there's also a power of being in too deep, where you're like, I didn't come this far to lose.
That's right.
Like, you're just going to have to kill me at this point. Like, you pay a certain price, and there's no going back.
Nothing to do with that. But anyway, that is just amazing. And again, this is the book, Bill Gates and His Quest to Shape Our World, Billionaire, Nerd, Savior, and King. And it's by Annaprita Das, who is the editor for...
She was a finance editor for the New York Times. Now she currently serves as the senior South Asia correspondent for the New York Times.
Oh, very
so
cool.
covering all things for South Asia.
I'm sure Don has a lot of questions here. And you want to talk a little bit about something, too, in the smaller picture, Medicare. He's an insurance agent. So let's talk about that.
Tell us how you can help people.
So here's the main way of which I could be helpful. I think it's the number one way where I see a big hole in a lot of cases. You know, at our Farmers Agency, we cover auto, home, commercial, life, also Medicare. And the way I really like to approach it is, I don't know up front what's good for you. I just like to see with what you have, does this make sense to even work with me? And if not, here's what I'd tell you to go tell your agent. Like, this is what I'd tell my mom and dad. So a lot of how we go about it is coming from the perspective of, where are you now? Do you even understand what this means? Because once you understand what you already have and what this means, then you have the context to know whether I'm telling you something that makes sense or doesn't, as opposed to just taking my word for it. So a lot of what I do is I go over coverages and I talk about what things mean in the event of a claim, and thinking about it from that perspective. In the Medicare space, a lot of it, you know, people get hounded.
Which is like you're going from real property to humans.
Yeah, it's like, exactly. You know, the thing is, people are so confused, and they're getting all kinds of things in their text messages and their phones and their mail, and they just want someone to break it down in plain English as to, like, will you just walk me through what this means? And and to tie it all in a bow, what I found is, if you just tell people the truth and walk them through, they make the decision as though it's their own. And that's just the way I like to approach it. So I don't have some kind of like, well, you need to do this, you need to do that, because everything works different. People have different things to lose, and so I like to try and take an evaluative approach to where you are and how do we cover that base, and that changes from year to year.
There's some decisions to make. You have A, B, C, and D in Medicare. Sure. D is the supplemental, I believe.
Sure, that
like
for prescription
Scan or some of the prescriptions and all that.
So yes, Scan is like a provider, like kind of like a Anthem or United Healthcare. But, you know, some cases you have to evaluate, okay, does it make more sense to be on the Medicare Advantage plan? Does it make more sense to have the supplemental plus the additional prescription drug benefit?
Medicare Advantage, you really don't have to pay for anything.
That generally shows up as a free one.
Like Medicaid or Medicare,
but
Medi-Cal.
you know, in the event where there's PPO, that might be a little bit different versus an HMO. And so what we do first, before we even talk about a plan, we just talk about, what does A mean? What does B mean? What does this cover before we even talk about that? Then we can talk about those.
I remember, you know, starting to get the letters and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my God, what is a PPO? That's personal providing something or other, what PPO stands for.
Yeah, so...
And then HMO is Health Maintenance Organization.
Exactly. So with PPOs, it gives you the flexibility to go to other places, whereas HMOs, unless you get a consult out, you want to stay with the network. It's more advantageous that way. So like I said, from that perspective, it's just more of, if the question is, how does this make sense for me? I found that when people just first find out what it means, because a lot of times, like, I don't know what this means. A, B, is this inpatient, outpatient? Is this what that is? Once they get that, then it's a lot easier to evaluate. And just like...
Everybody's needs are different.
And I tell people to check every year, you know, in terms of, let's just say you start off at 65 and you're healthy. And you don't have any prescriptions, but maybe that plan may not be advantageous at 71 and maybe there's some conditions and
Or you're diabetic, or
exactly
chronic illnesses. Yeah.
Exactly. So every year, I would suggest talk with your agent. Say, does this make sense moving forward? How are things changing? Are these meds on that formulary? Do we need to move over? That's the best way you can be an advocate.
And I understand they had some really big changes last year.
Oh yeah, but especially dealing with the prescription changes. So in some cases, some medications were taken off the formulary. So if people didn't go in and check to see, hey, I have these medications, these are essential to me, and then January 1 comes, if they didn't see, hey, this is in or this is covered or not covered, come January 1st, they may show up to the pharmacy and say, hey, this isn't covered. So it's always, I would say, having an agent who can review that with you, talk with you over that year over year to make sure if it makes sense year over year, that is a humongous.
I had that just happen. You talked about the actuary. I just got a letter from Kaiser yesterday, and it said that my new cholesterol medicine was not covered. It has been up to now,
exactly.
But all of a sudden it ain't covered. And they gave me that specific one because the other ones, combined with my infusion for myasthenia gravis, which the doctor even asked me if I wanted to quit it, taking the infusion. But anyhow, it affects your muscles. And the eyes is usually one of the first thing it does. But anyhow, so I get this thing. Well, I wound up with cirrhosis of the liver because I was taking the old medication for my cholesterol and the infusion. And the doctor picked up on this other one and gave me, and that's the one now they're saying after a year or so that it's not in their axillary, and I guess I got to go back to one that caused the cirrhosis of the liver. I got mad at my doctor when I found out I had cirrhosis of the liver. I asked my phone, what causes it? It says alcohol and drugs. I don't drink alcohol, and I've never taken illegal drugs in my entire life, so I took all my drugs that are legal from Kaiser, and I went into my primary doctor and I slammed him on his desk hard as I could and said, and he took my finger and said, how come you didn't tell me I had cirrhosis of the liver? And he says, who told you you got cirrhosis of the liver? I said, certainly not you, doc, because you didn't know I got it. And but the good news is, that's the bad news. The good news is they checked my liver out and they say it's functioning fine.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're going to do.
Everybody has a story. That gets back to what we're talking about. All the A, B, C's, and D's are different for everybody. And so Dashimi, right? Sorry. Dashimi Gazuga.
Dushime Gashugi.
Dashimi Gazugi.
Is it instead of shimi?
By the end of the show, I'm going to say that right. Okay. Mr. D. I apologize. If somebody wants, and they're in the position that I found myself in, or Don's found themselves in, or they need some counseling on Medicare and ABCs and Ds of it all, some clarification, that sort of thing, how do they get a hold of you?
So, two ways. My office is at Park West Plaza on Park in Tennessee in Redlands, or they could. Can I share my number?
Sure.
At the office. My office number is 909-492-7500.
Easy. 909-492-7500.
Yeah. And I'm happy to sit down and see what makes sense for you. And if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense.
Do you have a website?
Yes. It's Gashugi, ACAinsurance.com.
Google it.
Yeah.
It'll probably come up. You get a couple of letters, it'll fill it in.
And
for
Gashugi,
you.
yeah.
Gashugi.
Yeah. So ACA, that's the one I do for the under 65 healthcare. And then GashugiInsuranceAgency.com is what I do for Medicare.
Dashimi Gazugi. Okay, we're going to get that right, and I just got it right.
You just said it right. I just caught you. You didn't even realize it.
Yeah. And Don Williamson, he's also a member of, you're in the same club together, Kiwanis.
Kiwanis, yes.
Yeah.
And Kiwanis helps.
Which Kiwanis
Needy
club?
children of the world. This happens to be in Redlands.
The Redlands.
I belong to Rialto also.
The Redlands Morning Kiwanis Club?
No, evening.
Evening Kiwanis Club. Where do they meet?
Well, we meet actually at the YMCA in Highland, but we actually meet to eat. Anybody that wants to can meet at Farmer Boys and in Highland, and then from there at 5:30, and then after that for an hour, then we go to our meeting at the YMCA.
Okay, so the Redlands Kiwanis Club meeting at the Highland YMCA.
Yes.
Or the Farmer Brothers in Highland. Okay. That works. And Dashimi, how long have you been a member of Aquanian?
I'm going on my second year. Don is the one who recruited me.
Okay.
So one day he came by the office talking about a completely different subject. And
I was
he's
looking
like,
for the old owner of that office, and he was the
and I
new
was like,
owner.
surprised, you know?
So you want somebody that's involved in the community. You can always call KCAA at 909-383-1065, and we'll have that information for you too. Dashimi, it's been great talking with you.
Thank you
Don,
so much for
do you have
having
some
me.
parting words of wisdom?
Well, I want to thank him for coming, and I'll tell you, for anybody that's 65 or older, that's a lot of information they need all at once, bam. And they don't know which one to believe. I'd like to know why they always advertise December 7th as the last time you can change. And then on December 8th, they're still talking. And December 9th, December 10th, they're still talking about Medicare. I said, wait a minute. I thought December 7th was the end.
So October 15th to the October 7th, you have open enrollment. That's when people can make whatever changes they'd like to do. However, from January 1st to March 31st, you still have a open enrollment where people who might be within Medicare Advantage plan can move to another Medicare Advantage plan. However, if I'm in a Medicare Advantage plan, I can't move to a supplemental plan during that time.
All right, sir. It's been a pleasure having you on. Don Williamson, always a pleasure, as always. That phone number, once again, is
909-492-7500.
492-7500 and the 909 area code. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to Eric and Michelangelo in the back of the booth there. KCAA, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. This has been Donald Williamson Show, Tax Saver, and more. I'm Mark Westwood, and we'll see you next Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on the stations that leave no listener behind, KCAA. Happy Valentine's Day.
In your eyes so blue, let me call you sweetheart, I'm in love.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda is sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. KCAA.
Live and in color from the NBC News radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful Southern California, and in parallel from the Turfs Up radio studio in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thanks for tuning into the Water Zone show this evening.
All right, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in this wonderful world. And I'm Rob Starr, along with I can't even describe this person because he is great to me, and he's a great asset, and he makes the show awesome. And Mr. Chris Davey. Chris, welcome.
Hey, you're too kind, Robert. Thank you very much. Right back at you. As I always say, the ever-present and all-knowing Rob Starr on my introduction to you. And listen, man, I've got a bit of a prognostication for you, buddy.
Okay. Well, but before you do that, just keep sending the $10 to me so I can do those intros.
Thank you. You got it. Well, it went up. It was $5 last year.
Inflation. Go ahead.
So, listen, man, we are here on, you know where I live here in Claremont, California. It is bucketing down with rain, Rob, and is coming your way. It is going from west to east, buddy.
Yep, the news is California braces for flooding and mudslides as this atmospheric river is going to unleash a deluge of rainfall. Before we were on the air, I could hear the rain pattering on your window.
I know. I actually could hear it.
So it's supposed to be torrential rain, flooding, and mudslides to unfold in California. Snow drought plagues mountains despite recent storms, but, you know, rain is better than no rain, you know?
Yep.
So,
well, as you know, I redid my lawn in the front yard and put native plants in there and a couple of, rock rivers to sequester the water, right? So it sinks into the ground. Those rock rivers are over their banks right now and just flooding and flowing. And I've got, I don't know how much dirt from my from my garden is now in my sidewalk. So I got some work coming up this weekend.
Well, they're looking anywhere from 2 to 8 inches of rain in California in some of the places. So it's going to be kind of sad for everybody. Anyway,
thoughts and wishes are for those folks in the Palisades and fire burn areas. Man, knock on wood for those guys, buddy.
Yeah. Best thing to do is stay away from your burned down houses right now, because that's probably a place you don't want to go when it's going to do like that. It's for lots of reasons. It will spread the contamination and make it worse. So anyway, we got a great show on today. We have a very interesting person, very dynamic. In fact, I think she puts the Duracell Energizer Bunny to shame, because she is so passionate and so up about it. And she's an awesome person. But we're going to get to that in a minute, and I think it's kind of a little bit of a longer interview than we usually do, but I think it's well worth it for people to hear about it. So let's take a quick break, 1 minute break, and then come back, and then we'll introduce her.
One of the most time-saving tools I found for my customers is our app and our e-commerce feature. So customers actually have the ability to view all of their quotes in one place. If you contact your SiteOne seller, you'll be able to log into your account and see all your quotes in one place. And instead of jumping on the phone or waiting for your seller to call you back, you can approve it right from the website, and it will send a message to your sales rep to get it on order and reserve the material. Customers can learn more about these tools at their SiteOne branch, from their local seller, from their local CX specialist, and from SiteOne.com, or by downloading the SiteOne app.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Water Zone. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Chris Davey, along with the all-knowing, fantastic Rob Starr, my co-host, poised at the other microphone. As always, a very sincere thank you to all our listeners. Rob and I are so very grateful to be able to bring you the Water Zone every week, and we appreciate every single one of you for tuning in and listening. What a fantastic guest we have today. She is WaterCitizen.org founder, Dr. Kat Schreier. So, Dr. Kat, she is the founder and CEO of WaterCitizen.org, which is a nonprofit. They're focused on transforming water professionals and entrepreneurs into leaders and change makers. So, WaterCitizen.org was founded in 2012. And it's got a very important event coming up that is called Water Pitch, and we're going to have Dr. Kat talk quite a bit about that during our program. It's slated as a water startup matching extravaganza, so we're very interested in learning a lot about that. So without further ado, let me welcome Dr. Kat Schreier to the Water Zone.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Rob. Really glad to be here. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Absolutely, and you know what? We get so much praise from our listeners, because they always want to know a lot about our guests, what their background is, and and all that stuff. So, kind of a little more than the 30,000 view. Focus down a little bit more, if you will. Kat, tell us about your background and your education, your career journey, and essentially kind of round it all up and how all that brought you to where you are today, Kat.
Thanks so much for asking. I am a reluctant entrepreneur. This was not the career path I thought I was going on. As founder of Water Citizen, I really brought in my entire career path, and which started with a desire to be in public service. That was very clear right from the beginning. I was interning for my state legislator when I was a junior in high school. By my senior year, I was working for my U.S. senator, spent some time on Capitol Hill before I started college. I got a government degree at Dartmouth and was going back and forth between Hanover, New Hampshire, and various internships and experiences, preparing for a career in service. And, I really got to the point where I was a little frustrated with, the game of politics, right? And wanting to do something that was really tangible. And it happened that I had an opportunity to join an environmental consulting firm that was doing government contracts and writing proposals. And as I'm working on these things, I'm reading what they're doing, and I'm thinking, wow, this is really making a difference, right? We're going into a place that's been contaminated, or we identify the problem, we figure out a solution, we fix the problem, and convert it into something that people can use again. I mean, this was problem solving at its finest. So that suddenly became my goal. And while I'd always been good at math and science and engineering, or math and science sorts of things, STEM fields, I really wasn't encouraged in that direction. And at the time, women were not as often in those fields. But I just started taking classes at night while working in the daytime, or going to school and working on the side, and just put myself through a second bachelor's in geology, a master's in environmental science and engineering, in an emphasis in environmental management and policy, with which was over in the School of Public Health, because it was Chapel Hill and they don't have a School of Engineering, so it was very multidisciplinary. Went back to NC State, where I'd gotten my geology degree, to work on a third bachelor's in civil engineering while working for the North Carolina Division of Water Resources on developing a management program for groundwater in the eastern 1/3 of the state. And just kind of bringing all of that together. I got into a doctoral program at Colorado State, moved across country, found out they had forgotten to turn in the paperwork for my fellowship. So I started getting consulting projects. People had learned about my combined background of policy and science and engineering and all of that together, and technologies and innovation, is really a specialized skill set. And I was getting these funky little projects to work on things like regulations for aquifer storage and how permitting requirements were holding back, the advancement of ASR. And I spent a lot of years on that, ultimately getting EPA to do a clarification on the permits. That made it so much easier to get ASR. And often with innovation, those regulatory barriers, the planning, permitting, public perception, policy type barriers are more of an issue than some of the technical challenges. So anyway, that was lots and lots of years of grad school and consulting, and then I finally started with one of the big global environmental consulting firms, and was working on massive projects. I was doing business development, project management, some really interesting projects. But ultimately was at a place that, frankly, there were some individuals that did not want women as associates, and that actually I found out after I got there that was why the guy who had recruited me had hired me. He told me he wanted to prove that a woman could become an associate in the engineering division. So that was a part of my experience. And to be clear, at the time, I had not been one of those people who was really into women's groups, that I was absolutely confident that if I just had the right degrees and the right experience and the right connections and the right, just did everything right, I was going to advance. And it can be tough in the water industry, whether it's issues of, if you don't fit with the leadership of an organization. If whether it's race and gender, whether it's went to the wrong school, whether it's had the wrong major, so often people come into this field wanting to really have an impact and finding that they're just not on the right track. Yes.
All of those experiences, over the years, all the people you meet, all the relationships and experiences that you have, does any one of them stand out as being one of the most influential ones for you, Kat, that kind of brings you where you're at today? Everybody kind of says, well, the job I have today is the best, but anyone in your past, in your experience, percolates to the top as one of the more influential?
Well, Yeah, there were a couple of things. One is, I was doing, because I kind of didn't fit with the typical mold of what they were looking for in civil engineers. I was given things that nobody else really understood how to do. So, for example, the Colorado Water Conservation Board wanted to do a series of river basin planning meetings. And at the time, plan was a 4-letter word in the state of Colorado. We don't need a plan. We have the court system. We have prior appropriation law, and we can just fight it out if people want to fight over water rights. And there was really no planning at that time. And it really required, I had already been working for the Colorado Water Institute, the Colorado Water Center at CSU, and just from, years of politics and campaigns and whatnot, knew how to work with a variety of type of people. And so it was a matter of taking the staff and leaving Denver and going to all the different areas around the state and in very different communities, depending on what river basin you're in, rural areas, ski towns, whatever, and bringing all the right people together. And that actually had a huge influence on my initial thinking about Water Citizen, which was, this is the late 2000s, and we're seeing opportunities opening up to do things online and to do things remotely. People were doing stuff on free conference call. There were early examples of telesummits and the opportunity to bring people to the table. Whether I was doing it in Colorado, whether I was doing it for the DC Area Water Issues Program, for the DC Institute, Water Institute, was, if you can't get to the table, you don't have a seat at the table. And with virtual participation, combined with a really good understanding of how to build and bring together different communities and to facilitate those sorts of meetings, I saw some really fantastic opportunities. And unfortunately, there was a lot of resistance to that within the water sector. There was people who had, from large organizations that had large travel budgets that would all get together in places that were hard to get to, or it was at a time of the day that nobody could come, and other than the people who were paid to be there. And it really wasn't until the pandemic that you started to see some of these virtual programs. So that got into Water Citizen. Water Citizen we started out actually wanted to get a 501c3, kind of had this vision of being like the Water Education Foundation in California, or I'd actually been part of the development of the Colorado Water Education Foundation, now called Water Education Colorado, I think. And, just to be that neutral party that can bring everyone together, that can provide educational programs, except do it in a virtual way, so it wasn't just tied to a specific region. Couldn't get the 501c3 back then. It was a much longer and more expensive process at the time, and decided to go in a media direction, because this was a time a lot of changes were happening in media as the newspapers were all going virtual. So I saw this as and my entrepreneurial journalism professor hates when I say it, but it was hyper-local news for the water psychographic. For people who think and care about water. That's my audience, is people who already care about water. I'm not in the business of convincing people that water is important or convincing people to believe in one position or another. But if you think and care about water, we were providing easily accessible, free media, not the technical mumbo jumbo journals and the academic journals and and then very expensive conferences that are hard to get to, where a lot of these conversations happen, but how to really make that more accessible. So that's where we started with Water Citizen. Although, of course, it evolved over time.
Well, you're a lady of many talents, I got to say, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Let's take a little dive into really what is the Water Citizen, and how does that work, and what do you do?
Yeah. So, and part of being an entrepreneur is really discovering what you are and what you do and what your value is and how to talk about it. So, and we do a lot of work with entrepreneurs. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But Water Citizen for our organization has really evolved into an educational and leadership development nonprofit for water professionals and entrepreneurs who have big dreams, ambitious goals, and high aspirations to solve great challenges in water. It can be water supply, water resources, the economy, the environment, you name it. And, we need water for many things, as well as protection from water disasters. So anyone who's involved in any of these activities and just want to know how to have a bigger impact. So that is where we are with Water Citizen. We do that through our educational programs, through our educational online media, and through our events, including virtual events. And now, in the last 3 years, we've also gotten back into the in-person event space with our water pitch program.
And how many people are part of your organization?
It is, well, let's just say I use the royal we a lot. A lot of it's me. And we're actually looking to change that now that we've really kind of defined our path much better, and we've got a number of folks working with us on our business plan and our 5-year projections and all that sort of stuff. We're looking to take that next step and grow, because we typically, as sort of on a project by project basis, I've got various volunteers, planning committees, board members, interns. I've worked with several universities, both in town in DC and remote interns. And because a lot of our stuff is online, so we can do that. But really, and as much as I love working with the interns and the educational component of that, we really need to be able to do more in terms of bringing on a full-time staff or a professional staff that already have the familiarity with the program, or the different platforms that we use, the different methods for doing online communications and online education and enrollment. So that's all coming up. But right now it's mainly just been me. And just a lot of support over the years. I mean, I've been able to get to a lot of water conferences and events. I was already doing that as a professional, working with consulting firms and agencies and universities and whatnot. And I'd go to these conferences, and yes, they'd be doing the technical presentations, but every now and then you'd hear someone talking about something that's just really cool and exciting and breakthroughs. And I'm thinking, people want to know about this. They want to know that we're doing some really exciting things. And when, I learned how to interview water professionals in a way that really taps into that excitement and to understand, mainstream media, when they come in and they ask completely stupid questions that have nothing to do with what the person's working on, or if they've been warned, the media is going to ask you gotcha questions or whatever, they come in with this deer in the headlight look when someone sticks a mic in their face. So I don't do that. We really get to know the folks that we're interviewing and what they're passionate about, and really try to capture that in our interviews. And I know that you guys do some of the same, right?
Well, I'll tell you, you have that fire in the belly and the passion. That's awesome. With all the other people involved around the world in water, what's some of the things that set you apart from the other organizations of what you're doing? And I can tell you're real proud of what you're doing, and you're doing a great job at it. I can tell you that. Well,
we really try to be very, very customer focused. Even though we are a 501c3, we're not set up with, fiscal sponsor or big grants and, some of the things that some of these grants are really more like contracts, right? And this is what we're going to focus on because that's where the money's coming from. We really look at the end users and who's going to benefit from the programs and how do we really tailor it to their needs, give them what they want or sell them what they want, give them what they need. What do people want? What are their pain points? What are they grappling with right now? And how can we provide things that are going to really help solve the challenges that they're working on? That's true whether we're working on something like the Keys to Water in Congress, which was our very first program that was, it was just basically a one-on-one. I'd spent a lot of time on the Hill. When I moved back to DC, I was doing a National Academy of Sciences Study Committee project and was called up to the Hill several times to talk to members and staff and Congressional Research Service. And so I was very comfortable with that. And people would come to town for fly-ins and just be so nervous. They might, they had some of the federal agencies come in, and then they might have some lobbyists say, oh, you're going to talk to some 22-year-old kid, and that's the person who's really in charge, and don't do this and do that and whatever. And they're just so nervous, right? And so just, the idea behind that program is really help people be more comfortable understanding how Congress works, where federal programs apply at the state and local and even private sector levels, and how does that all fit together, right? And so just taking that that user-focused approach is really important to us. We're not a big association. We're not an association at all. We're not a 501c4. We're not a 501c6. We don't lobby. We don't represent specific groups, but we have we do help people understand better how to do some of those things. We've done some other programs with virtual masterminds, taking people over the course of a year and getting together once a month. We start out with some goal setting at the beginning of the year, and then every month, each person is going to have an opportunity to get into the hot seat to present an issue and say, here's a challenge I'm really grappling with, and have that very facilitated peer support that helps them to move forward with whatever it is that they're stuck with in terms of their career, in terms of their work-life balance, those sorts of things. So we've done a number of different programs, but when we started doing Water Pitch, and really from the very beginning of Water Citizen, one of our first articles, and I'd already been in the water innovation space, right? I was one of those consultants that our clients would say, hey, can you go check out all these different new technologies for us, and evaluate what's worked, who does it, whatever. So when it comes to water entrepreneurship, I had, I had really been in the innovation space for a long time. And I had, as one of those consultants that the clients would say, hey, we're thinking about this. Can you go find out more about that? And where's it been used? Alberta Environment actually asked me to do a project with like 24 different, what they call these crazy ideas. Does anyone really store water underground? Does anyone really do cloud seeding, right? And so really just putting that together into a really accessible way. But I had been involved with things like the Water Innovation Alliance Foundation and some of the early efforts to incorporate more water into green startups, in the 2000s. And so when I started Water Citizen and Water Citizen News, one of our first series was called the Hispanic Water Leaders Series. And basically all I did was look up, people that I knew who were leaders in the water space that I was going to see at conferences and whatnot, and said, hey, could we find a little time to, go off to a little conference room or outside or whatever and do a quick interview on where your family is from and how they came to the States, and did it have anything to do with water. And one of the first person I interviewed was Sally Gutierrez. So she had already been involved in innovation because she was heading up one of the labs in Cincinnati, that National Risk Management Laboratory. And she was asked by the head of EPA at the time, Lisa Jackson, to step out and start up this new initiative to create these water innovation clusters all across the country, like these little Silicon Valleys of water, or research triangle parks of water, where you get local support and you get university support and large corporation support for startups working on various issues. And in this case, it would be anything water related. And so this one's kind of more, Great Lakes focus, and this one's more coastal, and this one's more agricultural water. But, they started to each develop their own personalities, but she was bringing them all together and helping them to understand what different programs were available, what federal funding priorities were related to water and energy or water and agriculture or whatever. And I was covering those. And in many cases, I was the only media at those events, and really kind of capturing the evolution of these programs to support startups. That program went away in 2018. And they're the larger ones that have more support kind of kept going. Some of the smaller ones went away. Some of them started focusing more on larger federal grants around things like the Great Lakes or what have you, or had more private support. But there was nothing really bringing it all together. And I had an opportunity. Sally was getting ready to retire and had planned this big water innovation week in Cincinnati, right? And Cincinnati, if you're not familiar, it's the confluence of major rivers, and it's got a lot of water-related stuff going on. That's where the major labs for EPA related to a lot of our water-related research, it takes place there in Cincinnati. So they had this water innovation week. They were working with the University of Cincinnati that had this innovation hub, and we were going to do an event, or she was putting together an event with a guy in Germany who would do these, kind of investor and higher level startup matching to match up startups with investors in the water space. And so she asked him to come out and do it. And it was kind of coming together, but there was a lot that was missing from the program, and he just didn't know people in that area and wanted us to do it for him. And we said, no, I can't do this for free. I'm not getting a salary to do this. And so we basically agreed that I would step in and finish putting that program together. And I saw an opportunity to really expand on what, that initial matching of just the investors and the, the higher level startups, and really bring in all stages and all sectors and all solution types. It wasn't just PFAS. It wasn't just digital. It wasn't just, high tech, low tech, deep tech, whatever, it was how can we bring everyone together? And everyone's walking on a similar journey when you have a startup, right? And so there's a real opportunity to bring people together. And so I got together with some of the planning committee folks, especially some of the folks in Cincinnati and some other folks that I brought in, Doug Hattler, Chuck Mart, Anthony Tepe, Sally, some of the other folks, and said, let's keep this going. And that became rebranded as Water Pitch, and really had a chance to redefine how can we best serve and support the water entrepreneurship community. And that includes startups. That also includes the investors. That also includes the VCs. There's especially here in DC, there's a lot of these young people who want to save the world's climate with money, right? I'm going to start a VC fund for climate, and I'm going to help with this company that does carbon, this company does that, whatever. And this water company came up to us. We don't know what to do with them. And I think that's something that's really important, that people don't understand. You can learn the science or the engineering or the economics or the law in a school, but until you work in the water space, until you really start working with all the different types of agencies and utilities and regulators and funders and researchers and everybody else who is part of that picture, it can seem kind of like a foreign place. So to be able to help someone who's got an innovation and bring it into the world, right, and get it to the people who need it, and recognize, sorry.
No, so it's not like you do. It's not like you have trying to find things to do on the weekend, Kat. I'm sure, but let me ask you a quick question, because something you actually mentioned, and I know it's part of Water Citizen, and that's the workforce development kind of a thing, and you just mentioned it, but just a note that tags on to, if you listen to any of our shows, right, whatever it is, whoever we're talking to, whether it's municipal water agencies and their staffing programs, or things that happen in the ag sector, produced water and oil and gas, drainage issues in the Midwest with adoption of the new tiling technology, carbon neutrality, as you just mentioned. There's always an underlying issue in all of these interviews that we've done, and that's getting people to do the job, to work for in these jobs. So, how do we solve as you describe it, the water workforce crisis? I mean, there's so much to be done.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that really kind of drove me after a while. You know, I was out there, I was interviewing people, I was talking to leadership and innovation and all this cool stuff. We want to make water cool and sexy, and everyone kept talking about workforce, but they kept looking at the next generation and the next generation and the next generation, putting all their efforts into kids in colleges. Right? Oh, we don't want to talk about anything that's happening in the workforce. Now we want to talk about kids in colleges. Or they talk about young professional up to 35. We only want to work to under 35s, right? And there's a lot of, there's a lot of need for people to come in and do basically the scout work. Basically, go collect the data, input the data, set up the tables, do all the things, which, that's part of our training when you get out of school, to be able to get into those positions and do some of that work, but in the process be around people who are doing more advanced level work and learning how the system works, learning how, who's who, what the different organizations are, how decisions are made, right? It's a really critical part of the post-university education to develop as professionals. And unfortunately, once people get out of that, once they age out of the under 35s, which, by the way, are the millennial generation, is now, older millennials are in their early 40s, right? And then suddenly, they're a little more expensive, and maybe they're shaking doctor more often, whatever, or maybe they have more pressures to take care of aging parents, or kids are in high school, whatever, and your people might have to step off of that career track and they can't get back in, or they might find that the options for advancement are more limited, or if there's a downsizing, that they lay off the folks in that area and then they want to hire young, cute, and cheap, right? And so when I hear people over and over talking about this water workforce crisis, and it's like, if we were to take a look, and one of these days, Water Citizen would love to get a grant to do this, to really look at all the graduates of all the water programs we have and see where they ended up. There have been some studies in specific fields like engineering, showing that, there's a massive drop-off of women in engineering after about 10, 15 years, and then for men, about 15 to 20 years in, right? That, we lose a lot of people at that point. Well, where do they go? And this is one of the things about water entrepreneurship, is it provides an opportunity for people who have water expertise to continue working in water. It is an industry that is really dominated by large organizations. We are trained to work in large organizations as part of large teams that have access to large, expensive databases and IT support and all this other stuff. And we're not trained to be water entrepreneurs. And so to be able to keep, and a lot of the most successful companies, by the way, it's not the kids who worked on something in grad school and spun it off. I mean, there's some of that too. But a lot of the folks we see at Water Pitch, they have been in the industry for a while. It's a difference between saying, yeah, I got this cool idea, I developed in business class, I want to do an Uber for dog walking or something like that. These very general ideas, versus someone who's been in an industry who says, I know that if we can make data collection real time in the field on your phone, which that's a very hot issue right now, that it's going to save so much time. We're going to get answers quicker. We can avoid contamination incidents, and it's just knowing the things that make a difference. One of my mentors talks about a small hinge that opens a big door. So this is where we try to provide opportunities for people who are trying to get into this space. And again, a lot of the folks who historically, innovation in water, because it's so important, because it's so regulated, because it really requires, some level of expertise to make sure you're not doing something that accidentally causes contamination or whatever. It's often coming out of large labs or large universities, research institutes and whatnot, and then it spins off into commercializing things that people are doing research on. Who don't come out of those systems, it can be next to impossible to really find the support that you need to develop your startup and get it into a space where you can be serving, whether it's utilities, private manufacturing, energy, whatever field you want to go in, residential, direct to consumer, whatever the market is, to understand how water is done in each of those areas to make sure your technology works, but also go beyond just innovating to creating a business model, to creating pathways to get your innovation out to the people who need it.
Do you think the industry needs more public-private cooperation together? And through some of your events that you put on over the years for the pitch, have you seen anything from the VCs or water agencies that partnered with somebody and made a big splash in what they took up as that endeavor?
Yeah. And this is a big issue. This is one of the things that Sally and I had put into the very first Water Startup Matching Extravaganza, is that not everyone is investor ready. Investors typically want to see traction. They want to see that you have A, developed your technology, and B, pilot tested it, got it permitted, whatever, have clients in an industry where they often won't hire you to do things or even let you pilot test on that site until you've done a number of other steps. And so we brought in a whole separate, we had two tracks. We had the investor side for those who were investor ready or wanted to know what it took to become investor ready. And we try to, when we do our water pitch events, we try to have the whole spectrum of those who are looking for a later stage and earlier stage, that can kind of create pathways and pipelines as you go through your entrepreneurial journey, as you grow your startup. But then we had another separate panel, which was the federal funding and foundations. We called it the other FFF, when you're done with friends, family, and fools, which is how people normally, often start their startups. They use their own money, they get their friends and family and people who just say, yeah, this is a cool idea. Right? But we, particularly with the different federal agencies, whether they're these small business innovation research, SBIR, SBIR, some people call it. There's also tech transfer, where labs will invent new technologies, but they're not allowed to commercialize it. So those are available to license if you know how to do that. Kind of almost a business in a box, not quite, but it's already got a stamp of approval from NASA or NOAA or EPA or whatever lab it was developed in. But look at all those ways that the federal government has support. We're talking with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO, to come to our event to be able to talk about protecting your intellectual property. We've got one of the Small Business Innovation Research Grants. And again, this is next week at Water Pitch, the Water Startup Matching Extravaganza, February 18th to 20th at DC Water, which has been absolutely fabulous to work with their HQO Event Center. And we're bringing in some of the EPA Small Business Innovation Research Grant to talk about how that works. At some agencies, it's more like an innovation contract. We want somebody to develop a contract on how to get energy from water in this way, or water for national security for some of the Department of Defense agencies. And other places, it's a little more grant-like, but it is one of the ways that people get in. SBIR is not the only way. It's only about 15% of people who apply for those get them, and it tends to be a very complex application that is okay if you work for a big university that can give you lots of support on grant writing. Kind of hard to do if you're doing it on your own. But there's other options out there, right? And we're seeing some of the the private foundations. Are they supporting some of the early research stages and the development and market research and figuring out who can use this and how can these technology and systems and things like communication, things like outreach, how do we use the internet or AI to help with a lot of different things, with logistics. It's not just all the super high-tech lab stuff, right?
Well, you have an exciting day, I can imagine, every single day that you're doing stuff. Chris, come back in.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Kat, if you will, right? I mean, you talk about something approaching really fast. I mean, 7 days away, right? It's going to be in your face all next week, I'm sure, Kat. But Water Pitch, just for our listeners, Water Pitch, February 18th through 20th in Washington, D.C.
And actually, you're listening to this on Thursday, the 13th of February, you have 1 day left. In fact, you may have less than a day left.
Exactly.
You don't know what time it is, because we are cutting off the registrations to pitch at noon on Friday, the 14th, on Valentine's Day. And not because of Valentine's Day, but because our last virtual pitch prep and practice session with an amazing pitch coach out of Vancouver, Diane Curry-Sam, that's going to be at 2 o'clock. So we do a lot of work ahead of time. So I really get to know the different startups and what they're focused on so that I can give them a good introduction. This is, you asked a little earlier about what sets us apart. And, we see these big, tech events and how the big expo, and maybe they have a little innovation hub in the corner, and maybe they have some free beer or speakers to try to get people out there. But it's not really about focused on the startups, or occasionally get startups on a stage at a big event, right? And we call it the Miss America walk. They kind of walk to the middle of the stage, they say their little piece, and they walk off, right? And there's no buildup, there's no introduction, there's no sorting. We go through all the startups and figure out who fits with whom, right? So all of the startups have this in common, right? And so people know where they're coming from. And so it really helps for the audience to know who's who. We've also this year, we added an event app, and we've worked with the founders of SwapCard to figure out how to take their event app and add to it these custom questions that are similar to what investors look for on a little one-pager they have. And, have you been in an incubator before? Which ones or accelerators? Have you gotten funding before? What kind of clients have you had? What kind of advisors? Who are your key people, right? You get all that in one nice little profile. And we're doing the same thing for the reverse pitch presenters. So which fund is which accelerator is which? What do they look for, right? All of our reverse pitches, the whole pitch day, the middle day, is pitches and reverse pitches, the whole day of, after our opening session. And by the way, we've got Antoine Walter from Don't Waste Water, another of our favorite podcast hosts, who has all of the social media influencer type things, little cutting in videos and things like that. Makes a very high energy, great program, but also has some really interesting analysis. So he will look at, for example, every single water investment made in a year and look for trends. And that is, as a planner, as a systems thinker, I love that, and I think is very helpful for the investors and the accelerators and the clients. We bring in a lot of the innovation leads for water utilities and agencies and private sector clients, and just to have kick us off there, and then go right into alternating sessions of pitches and reverse pitches all day. We actually have an afternoon session the day before for all of our presenters to come in and upload their presentations and actually do a practice. We do presentation coaching all afternoon. We also have, once you're done with the coaching, we've got 3 different clinics, startup law, storytelling and messaging for water startups, how to make sure you're not jumping from water's important, fund my startup because water's important, and then you get right on into the details. You're not taking people through the story of why it's important, right?
It's sort of like the dating game for water innovation, Kat, if you
yes.
if you will. So how long have you been doing water pitch?
This is our 3rd year. And it's like our 3rd pilot is kind of like doing the bench scale and the column scale, and then we're doing the full scale pilot. And having DC Water, by the way, as a partner on this has been fantastic. Robert Bornhofen, Director of Innovation, had come and done a reverse pitch last year when we were at a different location in DC, and he loved it, and arranged for us to have our event at HQO, which is that's the nonprofit organization that manages the space where they have their board meetings. If it's not a board meeting day, they have that space available for everything from conferences to weddings and everything, and they've just been tremendously supportive. We added to the donated part the afternoon before and the evening after for a reception. And we're even arranging on the last day, on the 20th, we're going to head over to 101 Constitution. Some of my Friends on the Hill are going to, some of the people who work with different associations and organizations that help you with your strategy for government relations are going to tell us what they're seeing, a little Washington Insiders breakfast. And again, that's only for the people who come to Water Pitch. And then we head over to we got a briefing room on the House side of the Hill. And so we're going to reach out to some of the congressional staff and just have a, kind of a casual, just, have the opportunity for the startups to talk. Because usually government relations is the big dogs, it's the Veolias and the Xylems and the, and the big utilities and everything that are big players at the big associations. And here it's an opportunity to hear from the startups who are doing cutting edge things on things like energy from water or PFAS or lead or advanced monitoring approaches, and also just what it's like to be a startup and how have they been helped by small business programs, for example, or loans or SBIR programs. How has that helped them advance? It's really helpful if you ever get a chance to go to Capitol Hill to start out by telling them, where have you been helped before by federal programs? It's nice for people who are making those, drafting the bills and getting those laws passed to know that somebody got some good out of it. And then if there are issues that have come up, to just share those experiences and have more of a conversation. That's our goal for that policy day. Not advocacy. We are a 501c3. We're not trying to push the agenda and tell everybody, here's this piece of paper. You need to focus on these issues. We don't do that, right? But it is important as a startup founder, that's a leadership role. And often there's an opportunity for people who have water expertise, who are heads of their own organizations, their own companies, to do things that you can't do if you are an employee of a larger organization, especially a utility or an agency.
Right.
They often can't talk about something.
Right. Well, I think what you just said is a great summary for all that you're doing, and you've got an exciting week coming up. We've probably got just a couple of minutes left before we have to hand our time over to NBC to do their news hour. But February 13th here, Thursday, and they've got one more day. Our listeners who might be interested in attending, signing up, right? They got one more day to do it. Where do they go,
One day to pitch if you want to pitch as a startup. That ends on Friday the 14th. If you want to come, that ends at noon on the 18th. And once we get people in the door, we really want to focus on those people who show up. There are no virtual pitches. There is no recording of this. You have to be in the room, and we're going to just completely focus on the people in the room. So if you're interested in this, find some way to get yourself to DC, sign up. Any area of water, go ahead and contact me if you're interested, cat@watercitizen.org, and find the information on Water Pitch. Go to waterpitch.org. You'll see the buttons at the top, where to register to pitch, where to find the program, find out about the venue, where to register to attend. And please do join us and keep working with us throughout the year. We do things all year long. We have the Water Innovation Nation Celebration Virtual Summit. We're looking at developing masterminds and memberships and things that can really continue to support people through the year. But Water Pitch, the event, that's a big event. That's our Super Bowl.
Right. I mean, Rob and I know we're going to be so excited to learn about it afterwards. So open invitation to you, Dr. Kat Schreier, to come back on and tell us how it went, because it just seems such an exciting event, and we can tell your enthusiasm is like right at the top of the scale. So we wish you a great amount of luck. We hope it goes off well. And Rob, do you have any closing comment?
I don't know where she gets all her energy.
No kidding.
So, Kat, thank you very much for joining us today, and we really, really appreciate it. And we do want to hear about the success of how it went, and what new technologies are people trying to develop.
Absolutely. And then the relationships that they create, and the opportunities, the doors that are open. Oh yeah, well, we'll have to talk about that. A lot of that came up when we did the summit last summer. We brought back several of the people from 2023 and 2024, and they shared, what did they get out of Water Pitch, not just in the room, but in the months that followed. So I'm excited to open that opportunity for the people who come. And if you haven't signed up yet, please do sign up. Come pitch. We've got a few spots left. Come attend. It's a small, it can be up to 99 people we can fit in that room. So got a few spots left. We'd love to see you there.
Okay. Thank you. We appreciate that very much.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to that. We recorded that just a couple of days ago. I know Rob's there, but he's got to unclick his mute button to come back on live with us. What's happening, Mr. Starr?
Oh no, that was got a lot of potential and a lot of energy in that thing. And anybody who is interested in water, just to be a prized water citizen, or you got an idea for a product, there's going to be people at that event, the pitch event. Venture capital, angel capital people. It's a good thing to do. Go online. There's other things that she offers, and she has on some online training, how to write procedures and do grants and things of that sort. So it's a worthwhile thing. We thought for our listeners, a lot of them in the irrigation and landscape business or anything to do with any of that. It's a great way to learn and get more tight with people in the industry. And again, you're going to have a lot of big heavy hitters there, and you may be discovered. So anyway, that's what I have to say, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, it's essentially a help event, right? Self-help and funding help and things like that. It's just a place where you can go and see who you match up with, who might be interested, and where you can take it from there, Rob. So, I mean, I enjoyed it intensely. You can tell just from the interviews the level of enthusiasm that Dr. Kat Schreier has, and we certainly wish her the best of luck next week at the event.
Okay. Well, one thing Chris and I always want to tell our listeners, thank you for listening to us, but most importantly, please help keep our planet blue. Because if you like green, you got to have blue. So we'll talk to you next week. We have some people from New Mexico coming in, and there'll be a good conversation about fracking and recovery of water and things of that sort. So stick around for that, and we'll see you next week, and you'll hear us next week. So have a good weekend. Stay dry.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Good night.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda.